that allows you to spawn enemies. It is a really clever way to show what you're doing in a short amount of time. You can sharpen your skills. You can discover that you had other skills than what the people told you or your own career told you that you have. uh, Basically, if you're a programmer or if you're an artist, you can switch roles into game jams and see if you're capable of showing something different. As solo, as an studio, you're always trying to get those knowledges you have, get those skills, and getting better. Even if it is in a short amount of time as 48 hours, you end up with something bigger in your career. The first, I think, the first 5 to 7 years in my career were jamming basically 3 times a year. But right now I'm trying to jam as soon as I can, basically because I discovered something new in my skills. Other thing really important is that you'll need to use game jams to know other people, to collaborate and work with high pressure environments. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of personalities you can actually see when you are working in a game jam. That's really important because it is not just you as a jammer. It is a really good way to incorporate people to your studios, even if you're not in the studio right now. incorporate Incorporating people through game jams is a really good way to see if those people can attach to your working culture, if those people can work with your team. I know it is something sometimes complicated to have half of your team game jamming every week for each person that it is applying for a job. But if you do this, like nurturing every every wave of of candidates that you have, you'll end up with the most accurate people for your working culture, and that's something you'll need in order to promote your team. Um, Acting as a bridge between creativity and professionalism. That means that your team is not just acting as members of your company, they are acting as members of an environment, a really big environment, a community, and show your work as a studio, as a solo developer, as as someone committed into having more and more people involved in what you're doing, involved in your products. It is really weird that I'm saying a lot of stuff right now, but I'll switch the mind of getting just little games, little prototypes, and I'll start talking about products, because what you're building, even in 48 hours, 24 hours of every short amount of time you're using for your game jam, is a product, and your product needs to see a broader audience. So when you have your team exposed to the people, basically, to the people that are perfect perfect candidates for your team, you're given the opportunity to help and validate new ideas you can use in order to have more IPs. This is something really important because IPs is something that it is really expensive to create. It is really hard for us as studios, for us as developers, to make IPs. Intellectual properties are something that not much studios can have right now because they're surviving using maybe acting as a third party, providing services for other companies, and they don't have the time or the resources to make new IPs. So there's programs or there's game jams around the world as the Game Jam Toolkit, the Global Game Jam, the Nordic Game Jam, and the Ludum Dare that provides you the perfect platform in 48 hours to make you to create new IPs, to create something new and involve your team and involve more people from the community that can being involved in the first stages of those new IPs. Something I really want to highlight is the Game Jam Plus. Here in Brazil, the Game Jam Plus appears as a need for those IPs. It is not just a game jam. It is for me. It is more like a program you can use for prototype in 48 hours, but then get accelerated, get in an incubation for 6 months, and then you'll end up with a platform to showcase your work, for getting mentorship, to refine your prototypes, those prototypes that you made in 48 hours, you or your team made in 48 hours, and then prepare it for the global market. You can explore deeper game mechanics, storytelling, new ways to do engineering stuff, new systems, new ways of telling stories or telling or getting your audience to that experience you're bringing to them. It is a really good way to collaborate, to be involved, and to turning prototypes into IPs, because at the end of these 6 months, you'll end up with basically a full game that you can showcase here in these kind of international events, online or wherever you like, in order to have that support from incubators, publishers, accelerators, and other people that have that money that you'll need to in order to make that game complete. When you're doing that in your first steps, when you're participating in those events, when you're getting into the idea of making IPs, it is really important. I know that I'm saying every single slide that this is important, but this is a short amount of time, so this is really important that when you are starting with a new game that have been supported or have been tested in international aspects as a game like the Global Game Jam or the Game Jam Plus, the Game Maker's Toolkit Jam, whatever jam you like. This is a platform for you to test your mechanics, to test your game, to test your art, to get feedback from the public, and at the end you'll end up with a refined product that you can turn into the first stone of your studio. It is really important that as soon as you have that idea in mind, you have that legal entity in order to participate in other programs. I know for the Game Jam Plus, you don't need to have like a studio, a formal studio with all the legal documents. But as soon as you get that incubation, as soon as you get that support from the industry, it is really important that you have everything legal, because that can be the way you're participating in other programs that let you showcase your work, your product into these international aspects. You'll need to, you don't need to start big. You don't need to make the next GTA 5, 6, or 7. You can create something small, but remember that you're building a prototype, you're building a product in this stage. At the end of this, of that legal entity that you're creating, you will end up with a market-ready IP. And this is really important that you treat in those 48 hours, you treat your game, your prototype as a product, something that can evolve into a studio, into hiring more people, into having you committed and earning more money to showcase your work to the world. Um, I know that are missing some examples right now, but I always talk about um, Superhot. Superhot was made in a global game jam, and right now they are a studio. They have PC games, they have VR games. They are evolving. They are thriving into the industry. So it is a really good example. Last year, I was working in a AAA studio, and sometimes we were forcing to jam like every quarter or something like that, because it is really important to keep creating, to keep your team creating something new, something clever, and something small that you can refine in a short amount of time. 48 hours it is enough to test new mechanics, new ways to showcase, to tell the story, to tell a story, to bring a new experience to your players. So use that. Use that amount of time in order to have um, everything like founded, to get a good foundation and not lose maybe, I don't know, even $100 is enough to lose for indies like me at least. So please keep this in mind, that you're treating your prototype as a product, and those products needs refining in order to be like more complete games. But the the testing you're doing in those 48 hours in 1 week can lead you to a really good game that at the end will attract publishers that you can showcase in these events in the international markets, accelerators, incubators, and you can have your name into something bigger that started in 48 hours. There are some programs I like to highlight. The Google Indie Games Accelerator, the Xbox ID. Xbox is here, so you can talk with them. PlayStation Indies program, Unity for Humanity. If you have something more related with social impact, it is something that we usually don't realize, that social impact can be a product that you can end up in a game jam. It is really good to start. It is not that big audience out there. It is not that there's not much competence there, but you can still have more. You can still have more opportunities in programs like this. You have epic mega grants, and even if the global game jam is not a program itself, you can meet with new creators, with new mentors. You can create opportunities just participating in those game jams. It is funny because 15, 16 years ago, what we did in Colombia was taking the the Japan, Germany, Brazilian games or Brazilian prototypes that in the global game jam, we play them, we try to refine them, to recreate them and refine them. It is a really good, good way to study, but always bring your own voice to those to those products, because it is in 48 hours you can build a copy of something, but you'll need to create something with your brand, something with your face, something that you are passionate about. This industry is about passion. Show that passion into the product you're doing. And well, thank you. I know that I rush so many things. It is a short amount of time for this talk, but I'm not really sure if we still have time for questions of something like that. Para pregunta. I'm not really sure if we have time for that. Okay, but anything we can, anything we can get from this talk, please take this in mind. Um, Start small, something in 48 hours. Try to get involved the community. Try your team. Try to get your team involved in the community. Try to get your team to mentor other people. And please, if you're running an studio, please get rid of these boring technical tests, that you can face like a program, a really small code that you need to make, UI for a game, and that's it. Involve your team, make more game jams in order to see if those people you are interviewing are a perfect fit into your working culture. So game jams work for everything at this point. It is something that the industry is grateful for. I think the indie industry is showing every year that we can reinvent ourselves, that we can bring new stories. And last that I want to say is video games are experiences, and because they are experiences, the people need to experience those experiences in order to have something in there that can let those people like impact. They'll need that impact that you as developers, as a studio, as an artist, whatever you are, you have something to say to the world. You have something to bring to the people. So please treat treat your games as products, treat your games as experiences, and I think that's the time. Anything that I can support you, even with IGDA or in general, please let me know. I know that I don't have here my social media, but I'll be around this day. So please let me know if I can support you in any way. IGDA is a really big organization. It's the biggest platform for developers in the world, I think. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and excuse my English. I'm trying to think in 3 languages right now. Thank you so much.
Is this? Yeah. And
Thank you.
thank you very much. Sorry to.
A próxima apresentação que teremos aqui no nosso palco 2 dessa Gamescom Latam 2025 vai compartilhar a jornada da Coffee Cup, surgindo como um pequeno estúdio e desenvolvendo-se para um negócio criativo totalmente orientado por dados. Com essa mentalidade, os seus fundadores conseguiram definir, né, CAPs estratégicos, utilizar insights dos jogadores e construir uma estrutura analítica estável. Seja em jogos ou negócios, esta sessão lhe dará as ferramentas e a confiança para a tomada de decisões mais inteligente quando tratamos de dados. E quem apresenta tudo isso para a gente é Stanley Wang, da Coffee Cup.
Hi everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay on the microphones. We'll just wait for the slide to come up, hopefully. There we go. Okay, we're good now. Hi everyone. Welcome to Unlocking Game Data at Coffee Cup. My name is Stan, and I'm a senior data scientist at Coffee Cup. So in this talk today, hopefully, I would like to share with you our journey from a small interactive studio and how we've evolved over the past few months from virtually having no data infrastructure to building the solid foundations for a practical sort of data strategy that has allowed our creative teams to really shine. Hopefully, more importantly, by the end of this talk, I'll be able to share with you some actionable examples and some visual insights as to the work that we've done on our journey so far. And so hopefully you can take that away with you and use the learnings that we've had on your own projects and work. So just to introduce Coffee Cup at the beginning, Coffee Cup is a creative interactive studio with about 80 plus talented members spread across offices from the United Kingdom to France and Poland. Over the years, we've created several digital immersive experiences, mostly on VR, partnering with loads of global brands such as Meta, Jaguar, Land Rover, and Red Bull. In 2025, we are embarking on our most ambitious project to date. We are creating our very first game, original IP and original game. Hopefully this important milestone, it's taught us many things already. And the first thing that we learned was how little we actually knew about the players that use our apps and our games. And so this is the motivation behind us to try and create a robust data analytics pipeline in order to answer those questions. But before I go into everything about data, which is going to be the main focus of this talk, I would like to give you a bit of context as to the game that inspired this journey so far, and that's Humans. So Humans is a casual adventure/puzzle game that's built on the Unreal Engine, and it's coming to Steam, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox later this year. Players embody a character called Shu, who is the creature you see at the bottom here. Shu is a mythical, mysterious creature that's been tasked by Grandma Nature to save Earth from the pesky, misguided human invaders of the forest. We demoed Humans at gamescom last year in 2024 in Cologne, and players loved the playful narrative of the game as well as the engaging gameplay. We did a lot of surveys and questionnaires and interviews with people at the event last year. But one thing that these traditional methods of player feedback taught us was that we still had a lot of questions about the game and how players played the game. And these questions were not easily answered by player feedback. So that's where data comes in and bridges that critical gap. We realized that we needed detailed player data in order to understand the why behind the actions. So very quickly on this journey, we realized that data is not just about big numbers. Data is a powerful tool that helps creative teams justify their decisions and basically improve the game in a way that players actually want. So imagine this. Imagine we have analytics from a heat map showing where players are traveling on a level. If players are missing a specific section of the level, then that's something that's easily missed through playtesting and interviews. So data helps us move forward in that sense by helping us uncover the invisible. Things like player interactions and friction points within the game can be easily seen using the data rather than actually asking players for their feedback. Data also helps us validate and challenge design decisions. Rather than just using our guesswork and intuition and using limited feedback, using the data will help us have more confidence in the design decisions that we make. And it helps us to understand what works in the game and, more importantly, what doesn't work. Once the whole team embodies this philosophy of using data, then it keeps everyone aligned, from designers to developers to project managers. Everyone is looking at data from the same perspective and the same single source of truth. Okay, so before I go on to talk about coffee data and our data platform, I'd like to share with you a very quick trailer for Humans, just to give you a bit of context to the game that has inspired our journey so far. Hopefully you'll be able to hear the audio. Okay, so in order to address all of the analytics needs that we mentioned in the previous slides, we built something called Coffee Data, which is our in-house data analytics platform built completely from scratch, designed and tailored for game developers. So Coffee Data provides us with intuitive insights, visual insights, that is designed to turn the raw gameplay events that we see from humans into actionable insights. To make Coffee Data work, we needed a technology stack that can support everything that we wanted to do. We needed a stack that was scalable, reliable, and efficient in its processing. So here you see a high-level overview of the technology stack that we ended up going for that works behind the scenes and getting data from humans into reports and dashboards. So I want to highlight here the main pipeline, which is coded in blue, which goes from the app or the game to Firebase, to Databricks, and then to Tableau. So let's focus on each of these individual stages. So stage 1 goes from the app directly into Firebase. Now Firebase, we use Firebase to essentially collect the game events directly from humans and store them. So why did we choose Firebase for this? Firebase is a very simple, intuitive interface for us to design these game events and to design triggers in the game in order to collect the data. It's also robust and very scalable. And ultimately, we've just had some previous experience using Firebase as well, so we decided to stick with this. The second stage is going from Firebase to Databricks. Now, this is kind of the data processing stage. There's a hidden intermediate stage in the middle, which is actually going from Firebase to Google BigQuery and then to Databricks. Why we use Google BigQuery is that it's just a reliable cloud storage system that enables us to store a lot of gameplay events and persist them in storage. We design pipelines to basically transfer data from BigQuery to Databricks and run that consistently every morning so the team always gets the up-to-date data. We use Databricks for our data warehouse solution. The main reason why we use Databricks is the fact that it handles large-scale data very efficiently. It enables us to do real-time processing, really important for looking at things like gameplay frame rates, bugs during playtesting and live events, but it also allows us to do batch processing as well. Also, Databricks handles advanced analytics and machine learning workflows seamlessly within our platform, and that's something that we really want to do in the future, and there'll be an extra slide on that at the end. Once the data has been processed into a structured tabular form, then we pull that data and we push it into Tableau. And the reason why we chose Tableau is because of its ease of creating really intuitive visualizations from very complex data. We use Tableau to create things like the heat maps that we saw earlier, as well as player engagement funnels and level analysis as well. What you can see from this diagram is that there's a lot of different places that end users actually access the data from our platform. So whether you're an external client or maybe a part of the team that you don't want to be overly bogged down with technical complexities, then you would access the data directly from Tableau using the reports and dashboards. You could even access the data from a website that we create using the embedded Tableau dashboards. However, if you're a developer or a data scientist like myself, you might want to access the data further upstream, where you can actually start using that data to do more further analysis, complex analysis, as well as starting to create machine learning models. So we have that kind of flexibility depending on your level of technical proficiency on where you actually access the data. So inside Coffee Data, one of the main benefits that we've seen from our platform is that we can start creating role-based access. This means that if you're a designer, you're most interested in looking at heat maps, looking at the player movement, and how much time players spend in certain areas of a level, as well as when they get stuck. However, if you are a producer, then you might be more interested in looking at the top-level KPIs like player session data and retention rates. Whereas if you are a data scientist, then you might want to drill down deeper into the data and look at player behavior patterns and trends. And this way we can basically create tailored dashboards and reports that's specific to each role so that everyone can easily find what they're looking for and have the data at hand very quickly. One of the main benefits of coffee data is that it's built to scale. So whether your project, doesn't matter what the size of the project is, whether it's an independent game like Humans, or a large-scale multiplayer game, or an interactive event activation, the coffee data platform really scales with the number of users. It's built on a single template architecture. It's a flexible foundation that can be customized depending on the type of game, the genre, or even the client needs. And each dashboard is then bundled with a custom branded portal, the role-based access that I mentioned before, client-ready visualizations, and full brand integration if needed. This way, as a result, each project feels like a really bespoke dashboard that is made to fit the particular project without having to start from scratch every time. So we've looked at the general architecture of coffee data. I want to now delve into the specifics, and I want to use Humans as a case study. One of the main things that we've prioritized doing with Humans is to define good KPIs that we want to use to measure the success of the game. And I hope that you can take some of the general categories and ideas of these KPIs and apply them to your own setting and context. Some of these might be a little bit Humans, game-centric, but hopefully the principle applies. So the first category of KPI that we deemed as the most important was the player journey. So this is essentially your game's heartbeat. If you're not measuring anything about your player journey, then you can't improve the player journey. So on a high level, we're looking at things like sessions, but then inside a session, we're looking at the level and what they're doing in the level. And then inside the level, if it's a particularly complex level, we're looking at certain checkpoints in the level. And what this data really helps us to do is track the players' progress, where they pause, where they quit the game, and looking at their momentum going through by level by level. The second category is engagement and player behavior. So your designers and your developers might have spent months developing a new feature for a game. It'd be a really big shame if no one then used the feature, no one played with it. So understanding what engages the player within the game is really helpful to guide our development in the future so that we're constantly focusing on improving areas that players actually want. For Humans, in this case, we're looking at things like abilities, so how and when abilities are used, as well as when objects are used in interaction, and when players are idle and AFK for. Are they AFK because they're just stuck on a particular level, or are they AFK because they've lost interest in the game? The third category is progression and rewards. So understanding what motivates the player in the long term, what keeps the player coming back to play the game. So in the Humans instance, we're looking at things like collectibles and achievements. So are players actually taking the time to visit every corner of the map to find all the collectibles, or are they just not bothered about that and focused on finishing the level as quickly as possible? This is just really useful insights for us to understand what to work on. And the final category I've kind of bundled into a general category called performance and system events. And I've captioned it with not sexy, but potentially game saving. And that's absolutely true. We're looking at events like heartbeat, frame rate, and latency. These are game features. These are not directly game features, but things to do with the game that can make or break the player experience. So monitoring performance as close to real time as possible can ensure that we're making sure that the gameplay is smooth all the time. And hopefully setting up performance alerts. So when the frame rate goes down by a certain threshold, by X amount of minutes, we get an alert so we can spot the problem early. We also capture things like platform information, like device, operating system, hardware information, and geolocation. And this helps us do things like understanding where in the world players are playing from, and also if there's a certain bug in the game, is that bug relating to a certain type of graphics card or processor? Once we've got that data in place, we focused on setting up a powerful feedback loop with the creative team. So we need to use that data to identify the problems with the game in order to then apply quick fixes. So I've got some examples of how that can be applied here. So for example, if a player we see in the data is completely ignoring the left path of a level, then a quick fix might be to try and introduce a visual cue in order to encourage players to explore the map a bit more. If interaction with an object is very low and it's a very important object, then we might want to introduce that object earlier in the tutorial in order to show players how important it is. And finally, we might just see lots of rage quits on a certain level. Either we can look at rebalancing the enemy density in that level to make it easier, but that depends on whether we intended that level to be a difficult one or not. So these are just some examples of like work in progress dashboards from the data that I mentioned before. So on the left-hand side, you've got the key geolocation data. This is again not real data because the game hasn't been released yet, but it's actually from our playtests, from our internal playtests. So with the geolocation data, you can very quickly see trends in countries and regions of the world. And hopefully that will allow the teams to tailor their marketing and their content towards certain regions. And then on the right-hand side, you can see we have a retention table to show the full life cycle of a player from day 1 to day 90. And this helps us understand if there's any changes in engagement patterns over longer term. So maybe we can see there's a big drop in day 7 retention. That will mean that we can react faster to what's happening. Okay, so I mentioned machine learning and how Databricks caters for machine learning. Well, this is something that we want to go beyond our current tracking. So instead of just tracking what's happening in the past, we want to use that data to then predict and anticipate what might happen in the future. There's a few examples of the things that we're working on as part of Coffee Data. So churn prediction, spotting when players are likely to drop off from the game. If you know that a player has dropped off and they've stopped playing the game 2 weeks ago, then it's too late. You can't do anything about that to bring them back. But if we can, from an early session, predict when a player might quit the game, then we have a small window where we can intervene and try and improve the player experience to keep them playing. Another example is player archetyping, so actually grouping players by their play styles to understand what the most popular play style is. In humans, people can complete a level by being stealthy and not alerting any humans. But equally, you can also complete a level by being as chaotic as possible, alerting everyone and just running through the level and completing it by luck. And they are both valid ways of completing the level, but by understanding which way is more popular, it allows us to then work on the game in order to better suit those players and make them feel like they're being challenged and rewarded. And finally, alert fatigue modeling to show, as part of the user interface, when too many pop-ups or screens happen, it might confuse the player and it might disengage them from the game. So that's something that we want to try to be able to predict in advance. So this is the last slide. I'm aware this is quite late on in the afternoon, and you probably will come out of this forgetting everything about it. But someone told me that people leave a presentation remembering probably only about 3 key things. So I've got 5 things here. So if you can remember any one of these, then I'll consider that a success. So the key takeaways that we've learned from our journey: work with your team from an early stage to design KPIs. Don't track everything. That's just not necessary. But track the things that are important, matter most about your game. So things like player interaction, progression bottlenecks. Second, support creative intuition. Don't replace it with data. Data is there to emphasize whether a creative decision was successful or not, and helps you then reform that decision in order to basically try a different hypothesis and try a different experiment in the future. Next one is to visualize the data in appealing ways. So show, don't just tell. Turn your data into heat maps, into dashboards, into visuals that are engaging, and not just rely on overcomplicated spreadsheets. Most people are visual learners. Fourth is automate the boring stuff. So free up the time of your dev teams automate as much as you can, as much as you can to free up the time in order to make more critical business design choices. And then finally, treat data like a design tool. Data is not an afterthought anymore. It should be an integral part of the creative development process. So try to integrate it as early on as possible, because then you can set up your hypothesis, you can then conduct an experiment, and whether that experiment goes right or wrong, you can always then loop back and create a new hypothesis and keep going in order to improve the game. So that's everything. Thank you very much for your time today. My name is Stan, and you can contact me through this email. Tom is the founder. Sadly, he couldn't make it today, but feel free to also send an email to him if you've got any questions or you're interested. But I'll be around. Chris, our senior account manager, is around as well. If you're interested in the Coffee Data platform, interested in the games that we make, or just want to chat about data and games, both of us are around today and tomorrow, so feel free to come up to us. But other than that, hope you have a really nice Gamescom and hope to chat to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stanley.
No worries.
Amazing.
Hope that went well.
Com a recuperação e a evolução da indústria, o foco agora se volta para a sustentabilidade. Grandes estúdios têm encolhido e pequenas equipes, usam mais fornecedores externos a cada dia. O que isso significa para os desenvolvedores? O que é essencial para o sucesso? E como funciona o desenvolvimento? Essas são algumas das perguntas e inquietações do nosso setor. E nesse painel de agora, o External Development, a salvação da indústria de games, convida os líderes de algumas empresas estratégicas para esse debate. Nós teremos aqui no nosso palco, então, Caroline Kopek, da CD Projekt Red, Toby Al, VP da That's No Moon, Xavier Marotti, da Focus Entertainment. E para moderar toda essa conversa, teremos Sam Carlyle, cofundador da XDS Spark. E enquanto a gente recebe a galera aqui no palco, batemos palmas, a gente sabe quem é que está ouvindo, é bom. Eu também quero lembrá-los que depois, ao fim deste momento, nós teremos tempo para perguntas e respostas. Então, terá um QR Code na tela. Podem vir subindo, gente. Isso. Teremos um QR Code na tela e se você tiver alguma pergunta, dúvida ou algum comentário para fazer, ao fim aqui deste painel, é só escanear o QR Code que vai aparecer na tela, clicar em programação, selecionar essa nossa sessão e ir em faça uma pergunta e escrever o seu comentário. Muito obrigada.
Okay, I'm just getting my head around. Excuse me. Okay. All right. Okay. So, hello everybody. I'm just getting my head around having headphones on and talking to a microphone at the same time. It's all kind of new. We've had a wonderful introduction, and I would just like to say that it has been a tremendous experience to see how big this place has got. I was last out here in 2018. It was much smaller, much more indie focused, I think. But here, this hall is unbelievable. And I think it's a big indicator of what's just happening in LATAM at the moment and the excitement of movement that's going on right now. Now, I know we've had an introduction, but I would like to let everybody know that we're lucky to have a great panel with us today. Veterans from across several groups. I'd like to introduce Xavier. Xavier, could you do me a favor and just let me know what your position is within Focus Entertainment and also what your first role in games was?
All right, thank you, Sam. Hi, everyone. So I'm Xavier. I'm from Focus Entertainment. I'm Chief Production Officer. So I'm basically running the production department, helping the development studio we are working with to get the game done and at the right quality and at the right budget. And so, of course, using a lot of service providers. in order to do that. And so my first job was actually I was a game designer in a small development studio in France, and I was working on a geopolitical simulator.
Oh, cool.
It was 17 years ago.
Okay. Well, nice, hefty, light.
Yeah.
A big subject to cover in the game.
Yeah.
Carolina, could you introduce us?
Yes, I'm Karina. I'm procurement director at CD Projekt Red. I'm working here for 6 years, and I started 6 years ago as a procurement specialist. It is my first role in the gaming industry, but before that I was also responsible for purchasing. Yeah, okay. I was also responsible for purchasing goods and services, but for other companies. And I'm responsible for negotiating the terms, prices, conditions, and selecting the vendors.
Wonderful. And Toby.
Hey everybody, Toby Ao, a VP of Global Production at That's No Moon. Kind of handle all external third-party relationships for the studio. Prior to that, in my first gig in the games industry, was a project manager at Sony PlayStation in like an internal service group, kind of handling mostly reporting and budgeting and kind of collaboration tools for kind of audio, marketing, visual art, cinematics, all sorts of different things. It's about 15 years ago now, so started 2010.
That's a decent wedge of time.
It's gone by faster than I thought. It's kind of scary saying that number out loud, but yeah, 15 years now.
Perfect. Well, I wanted to kick off, and I'm going to go in. I'm not going to do a light introduction to this because I want to acknowledge it's been a very tough 3 years, and the news still rolling. It doesn't seem to stop. So, what I wanted to ask is, for you, from an external dev point of view, what has been the shift in the way that you manage external partners? What has been the change for you over the last 3 years that you've seen? Xavier, let's start with you.
So I think that's what we are trying to do, and even more now that we are under pressure with the segmentation of the market, and we need to be really extra careful about the budget. So what we try now to do is really to not go crazy on the development team size, rather than maybe more rely on external development teams, and what we try to do is not to wait for the end of the project when everything went wrong to ask for help. What we try is really to actually involve external studio beforehand, before the fire starts, in order to help the studios to stay on the right track, avoid some pitfall, and hopefully with this we manage to control a bit more the chaos, rather than before where we were waiting too long before actually asking for help.
So early involvement has been a much bigger shift. How's that been taken by the studios you work with? Are they open to that kind of level of early involvement?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, they're not. It has always been a very, very tough move to actually convince our studios to embrace help and support. I think it is related to the fact that people don't want to acknowledge the fact that we are working in a very, very complex industry, and making a video game is tough. So that's why I'm always trying to let them know, no, it's okay to ask for help. And even more than that, you should seek for help at the very beginning of your project to help you start it, especially in the pre-production phase. So but that's how I try to convince. And now what I'm trying to do is to find good use case to reassure studios. And so I can have other people from other studios telling my studios, look, here is what we did, and it went well, so don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, it's working. So that's how I try, but it's always complicated.
So you almost need pre-proof before you can really...
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. And Carolina, you've taken on a very central role. And how have you seen the shift over the last 3 years? Because I guess it's coincided with an expansion of how the CD Projekt has focused on external dev?
Yeah, so from my point of view, external development is evolving rapidly, and it's not just asset creators any longer. The external partners are increasingly involved in decision-making process, and they are developing entire game systems, at least in our company. So that's why our onboarding process is much more thorough than it used to be in the previously. We want to be partners with the vendors. They are not only the clients. So that's why we, for example, we are inviting our vendors to our studio to work from our studio for a week, sometimes for 2 weeks, sometimes for a month, because it builds trust. And for us, the trust is the key. We expect our vendors to say the truth, especially if something isn't working well. We encourage them to ask to tell us the truth. So that this change, the onboarding process, being transparent with the vendors, that we should work and they should understand that it's also important for us and for them to be fully transparent.
So yeah, so that is quite a big shift, and it's a big commitment from both sides.
Definitely.
And
And also the thing is, like, we are also working with a much smaller group of vendors, because it's easier for us to build this trust with smaller group of vendors. If you have like 15 different companies to work with, it's hard to build this trust, this engagement. That's why we focus our key partners, strategic partners. I can count it on the one hand, like it's 5 of them maybe. Yeah.
So one of the big shifts for you has been a reorganization of the partners to fewer
Exactly.
and more
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah.
More focused. Okay. So Toby, you got a chance to kind of build this up right from the beginning in this 3-year period. What have been your strategies?
So for us, we started 4 years ago. We knew from the very beginning it's going to be a challenge to grow. Maybe not as much as we thought it is, because we've grown quite fast. But utilizing external partners was always a part of our plan from the very beginning. We knew building up a new studio, and especially we started during COVID times, we knew we were going to be hybrid remote. There was going to be a lot of challenges to kind of get the game up and running, start getting stuff on screen in the engine, and we knew we had to utilize partners. That was going to build success for us, because we're still learning ourselves, building our own culture at the same time. Building a game and a studio, super challenging, so why not leverage all the partners that we either have experience with or have an expertise that maybe we don't have internally. So it's been a mindset from day one. Like I mentioned, prior life at Sony as internal service team, we were kind of that kind of support system to the internal studios. Now independent, we don't have a central team, so let's utilize our partners to be that support system for us in areas that we don't know about, or we don't have enough expertise, or just kind of to help us ramp up as we do our hiring, as we build our team, build our requirement documentation, all these things that are super challenging early on.
So you found that the support, the two-way street
Yes.
with the suppliers, and I guess you didn't have to sell that internally in quite the same way?
Thankfully, as being someone who was there from day one, and the initial 12, 15 of us, it was always, this was the plan from day one, and I kind of get to put the foot down of, no, this is what we're doing. Very fortunate to have the VP role that kind of helps solidify, like, this is the path going forward, and everyone that we're bringing on as a team member early on, this is kind of something that is part of our culture and what we're presenting, because we don't want to be a huge, crazy team size. We doing our best to keep, crunch and long hours not a part of our culture, and part of that is utilizing partners to augment ourselves, to not have to be pushing ourselves to that level, and kind of have a more sustainable workflow. So it's just something that we've just preached from day one and continue to preach. And there's always going to be the challenges of folks who feel like maybe they're losing ownership, but I kind of preach it back to them as they may be a different team member by, you know, company they work for, but they're our team members. Like, we've had partners for the 4 years we've existed. They are just as invested in our project as our team members are. You should look at them in extension and look for other opportunities for them to grow and to teach us other things, or they might have other ideas that we're not thinking about. And just, especially I think it's been fortunate in a sense that we have been hybrid remote, that we interact with our external partners the same we interact with team members, and there's really no difference. And that's something we've tried to put in place from the very beginning as well, as all our partners are in our Slack, they're in our P4, then our engine. For the most part, there's no differences. There's no like separate branch or a different version of the tool. They work the same exact way that we work, and we share the documentation the same for internal and external. And it's been, I think, a real key to our growth and a key to having really good relationships and allowing our partners to feel as invested and a part of the team. So it's been just something we just keep perpetuating as we go on and on.
But it's the transparency that Kaya was mentioning, and I think it's great. And you were talking about a shift, and I think that this, you know, I think that we went from a world where you know, external development was really seen as a executant part, like, oh, we don't want to do these 100 characters modeling, so take that, come back with the end result, and that's it. And now we are really moving, I think, to this sharing partnership. And that should allow us, to grow more steadily and more reasonably. And I think that's really great, and that's something I'm really looking forward in the coming days.
I agree to that. Also, our key partners are invited to our Christmas parties, our picnics. We have right now the 10th anniversary of Witcher, so we will have some concerts, so they are also invited to that. So that's why we really want to feel external developers as part of the team. And so I think we all agree that it's very important, and I see from the external partners that they really appreciate this. Yeah.
So the leveraging of partners as well. So it's becoming much more of a two-way street, which I think has been it's been in the mind, and then it's been a goal for external dev for a long time. I think we've seen movements towards it, but I think what I'm hearing is a wider acceptance of this is kind of the way that we now have to operate. And it's wonderful to see, because we've missed out on so much by not doing this earlier, and now to see that level of acceptance. And talking about acceptance, a lot of the battles I think that external dev managers face is not you, Toby. I'm just gonna take you out of this one. Is going up the chain and getting that buy-in from the senior management, and seeing, I mean, for me, Toby, it's great to see somebody in that VP position who is in charge of external dev, who heads up those external dev. But there's still, for most of us, there's still that battle, if you like, if that's too unkind a word. For you, it was proof of the pudding. For you, it's proof of it works for you to do it. Carolina, I guess coming in at this stage, what was the most convincing argument you had for opening the doors for bringing them in this closely to you?
I think it's also internal fight, as you mentioned, that sometimes you need to convince the internal teams that it's worth working with the external partner, not only struggling internally. Because I try to explain our teams that it's like teamwork makes the dream work, I would say. So what I would say, the sharing the experiences from the external partners are valuable lessons for us, because sometimes we need to admit we are hiring professionals because we don't know how to do this. So we trust that professionals will do this better for us. So let's meet and discuss what it's for them. It's also important to discuss what to explain us what we could do better. So we are sharing these knowledge sharing sessions together with the vendor, with the vendors, key vendors. They are explaining us what could be improved. Recently, one of our key vendor for QA told us what kind of systems for the QA we could choose. What is the best for us, from according to their point of view, and we listen to them and we purchase this software. So yeah, why don't we all share the knowledge? Because if we trust, whenever we are hiring the external partners, we believe that they complement our teams. They are not just fixing the gaps. They are just part of our team. They complement our team. So just listen what they have to say.
I think that's, yeah, we need to lead this change of mindset. And I think it's great that Toby, you are in a position where it's really, okay, it's part of the culture of the company. And I think that we need to really follow your leader on that, because I think that for many developers, it's like I'm alone against the world. And yes, I'm going to make my game and I'm going to succeed despite all the difficulties. And, you know, bring external people into this is like a failure. And honestly, it's not. It's not a failure. It's like, yeah, fetch the expertise where it is. Feed yourself with this expertise and have this partnership, and we will all grow with this. I think it was on one of your talks, Sam, the movie method, when you were comparing with the movie industry, where when you start making a new movie, you ask yourself, okay, I'm going to do this kung fu movie. Who are the best experts to make the the fight and the dance and the effects, and then you put them on board. That's probably the thing that we should, move towards in the video game industry. Have this. Okay, let's find the experts, let's bring them on board, and let's make a great game together.
I'm also comparing the hiring as external partners to playing RPG games. You need your monk, you need your tank, you need your wizard. We all make the team, and if we don't have like monk, then we will fail because no one will heal us. So it's like similar with hiring external teams. They are just here for help us to succeed with the quest.
I think there's an interesting opportunity right now too, like with the craziness in the industry and unfortunate amount of layoffs. There's a lot more kind of people starting up their own companies, and there's folks you've worked with in the past who have an audio team. It's like, oh, that's awesome. Like, we're slowly growing there. We can just plug and play. So there's a lot more people out there starting up companies with just amazing amount of experience. So like, the maybe one positive side is there is some new opportunities out there and new smaller niche studios starting up that could be like bring tons and tons of experience. So just makes it a lot easier as well to kind of convince your folks when it's like they were at Microsoft or EA for the last 10 years. They're part of this layoff, but they've got their core team already ready to go. That just makes things also easier to kind of convince your team to kind of work with other new partners as well.
So it brings in that level of what I'd like to see, and I think a lot of the industry would like, is a level of excitement about bringing these people in. And to your point, the idea that, and when we talk about the film industry, we talk about the fact that they are excited to be bringing these people in. It's a thing. One of the problems I think we face is that suppliers are seen as a necessity. We have a capacity issue that we are addressing with external suppliers. We have a cost issue we're addressing with external suppliers. At that point, it's a necessity, which is not so exciting. While in the film industry, no, we get to work with them. They did this work on Last of Us. They did this work on such and such. It's that excitement that I'd like to see. And so what do you think? Are there any mistakes that we make as development studios when we are shifting into this new era? Are there any common mistakes that we tend to make, places where we trip up?
Common mistake, yeah. For instance, when we try to maybe to impose, some external help to a studio that is not willing to be part of it. And sometimes you have to, because sometimes, you are in a very, very serious problem, and so there is no other option. But if you don't manage to have the development studio be part of the process, then it leads to failure. So that's a key of failure, because they will be, they will be more willing to find the mistakes that they are going to do, to show us, hey, you can see that it was not a good option, you know. So that's you and yeah, building the trust is really the key. If you miss this element and bringing the team on site, you know, have people come together. Also, if you miss that, I think it's a mistake. You should always get the external team, meet the dev team on site, you know, face to face, go to dinner.
Exactly, integration, proper integration is like a key.
Yeah, I mean, most common mistakes are always in the onboarding process.
Exactly.
Either not having clear documentation or requirements, or just developers, unfortunately, I can say it firsthand and from the experience of the other side, just have unrealistic expectations initially, like anyone trying to learn your style or your workflow or how to communicate, it's going to take a little bit of time. And if at the beginning you're just trying to look at how many man days are they spending per asset, or this phase didn't quite go so good, and oh my God, throwing your hands up, but how much grace and how much time do you give an internal artist? Are you comparing it the same? How much information do they have versus the partner? And just, those are things that like, I'm pretty adamant about giving like our external partners as much onboarding as possible, as much history into the project, the story, even if what the vendor's not doing isn't so much on the story, but still give them the full context so they can have in their mind if they're creating an environment or an art piece of how it can be used to get them invested, and to kind of like developers always have in their mind something more that they can't quite share, but you need to get your partners in that same type of mindset. So it's about sharing as much as you can early and often to get them there. And I think we forget about that when working with external partners all the time. So I think that's a very common mistake.
And to your point, I think also giving feedback.
Yes.
To the work of the external developers, because sometimes you will have a team that is looking at what they are doing and feel that it's not exactly what they wanted and so on, but they will not communicate this to the partner. And at the very end of the project, they will say, yeah, it was okay, but there was this and this and this. It was not very good. And you are like, but why didn't you tell them? You know. So I think that's as a manager, you will really need to make sure that the team communicates frequently feedback to the partner.
I agree. That's why I forced my teams, like producers, to have quarterly feedback sessions together with the vendor. First of all, we have internal feedbacks. Like we internally discuss what can be improved, but then we invite vendor to the table and we discuss openly what could be done better, but also what is doing great. Like we need to also praise and say what the success is. So, but it's very, very important, and plus one to this. So, force your producers to have a quarterly feedback. I know that sometimes it's very tough. No one wants to. I mean, but candid feedback. Just candid feedback is very important, and don't be afraid of telling the truth. That's it.
Especially for new collaboration, yeah. I think that's what I call is mid-term and post-mortem, because not only you have to give feedback, but you have also to think about the way you work with your partner. You know, is it the right way? Is the way that we give you indication the right one? Do you want another way of communicating with us? You know, it also from the external developer point of view, they also need to be comfortable with giving us feedback on, hey guys, we are working with you in this way, but maybe it's not the most optimal way, and that's also the way we can work better together. So yeah, I really...
And don't wait with the feedback to the end of the project. I'm also recommending to have the feedback after first month of starting the project, because then it's the crucial time to catch the mistakes. They can be easily repaired after this short period.
That's a really big ask. To ask the supplier to push back and say, no, we'd rather do it this way, or we're struggling with this, or your feedback's not very good. So one of the things that we have been missing, we've mentioned it already about getting the suppliers on site, is that personal relationship. And I think that we have, especially post-COVID, we've lost our visits out, our on-site visits out to the vendor, they've kind of been seen from a budgetary sense as not so important. But for a vendor to be comfortable enough, especially early on, to say this isn't quite working for us, that's such a huge ask of them. And it feels like something you could only ask in a mature relationship. But you don't. But it's most valuable early on. When the
That's
damage is
why
minimal.
if they are here in place with us, that when they meet us, when they work with us for the first week or two, that's the time to build this relationship, and that's the time for our teams also to give this space for the vendor for them to understand that it's really, we will not punish them for telling the truth. We want this truth.
I tell all our partners up front, like before we even start, like part of this engagement is you are telling me the feedback on my team or our process. Like, this is a requirement of working with us. It's like, we need to keep improving. I'm not going to be in the day-to-day. My producer is not necessarily going to be in the day-to-day who's working with you, but like, this is going to be a long-term engagement if it's going to be successful, and I need that back and forth. And like,
Can you set up a Switzerland? Can you set up a safe space? I mean, sometimes, because all three of you are removed from the actual frontline evaluation, right? So
no, actually, I'm taking part in this evaluation.
you're giving feedback
Yeah.
as well to the.
I need to be there because, and I also advise the business partners from the vendor side, not only the production to be there, but also the business partners, because I know that with the technical teams might have issue with saying with the communication, so that's why I'm always inviting the business partners, our account managers, to hear, to help them say what's deep down in the heart. So yeah, I think it's very important for us, the outsourcing managers, to be there to help our teams with communication.
And I think that it's a very important role to be the trusted partner, as you say, exactly to your point, Sam, where it's always complicated for an external partner to have the confidence enough to say the truth. So rely on the people that you already have a good relationship with, and we as buyers, we also need to give little tricks to give this space for communication. Like, okay, now it has been a month. Please give us 3 good points and 3 points to be improved. You have to. I want you to do that.
We won't leave you from this call until you tell us.
Exactly.
and I think, I might not be on the day-to-day, but I'm still keeping an eye on things decently closely. I'll see messages here and there. I'm like, to my team, hey, we could have said this slightly different or given more details or vice versa. But it's also like studio leadership on the vendor side. They want to talk with me monthly or whatever frequency. Like, I'll make myself available. And we don't have to talk about the project. We can talk about the industry. We can talk about how they're doing. It's, trying to keep that relationship and that rapport there and keeping that comfort level, not even just about the project per se. And, it is an investment for the long term.
Yeah, that level of comfortability that you get from being on site. So I think what we're looking at now is that it used to be we'd go over, and now it's going to be a lot more sellable for them to come over to us. I think that internally that seems to be an easier sell than sending people over. Even though I've got to say there's such huge advantages to being on their side and seeing what it's like from their side and the physical challenges that can come along with that. Just out of curiosity, what's the smallest team that you work with? What's the smallest studio you work with, or team within the studio?
You mean in terms of size?
Yeah, just.
I think it was two people.
2 people. Okay. And yourself, Karina?
Same, 2 people, and
people?
it was crazy because they reached out to us like a few years ago. It was like 2 mothers, colleagues. They didn't even have their company, and they said like, listen, they give us the good pitch, like what they can do with our game, and we were like, we will listen to them, and we liked our idea, and we gave them one project and another project, and 4 years later they gave they did for us the modding tools. They created the modding tools for Witcher, and it was like without their help, we would never ever did this because we don't have time. People already moved to other projects, and even today, in the morning, the owner of this company sent the message to me like, Carolina, I just hired the 35th person to our team, and like for me it's incredible. They started from 2, and right now they are 35 people in the and they have proper company. So I think if you are a small company, if you are even only 2, don't be afraid of reaching out to us, because if your idea is great, if you have a pitch and idea, just try it. Why not? I believe that we are all here. We just want to hear the great ideas.
Yeah, for us, it's probably like 4 or 5. It's probably the smallest. I mean, we work with a lot of individuals who have companies, so they run their business that way. But I would say for like a true like small shop, it's probably a 4 or 5 person team.
One of the reasons I ask is just because LATAM, this region is really pushing forward, is really on the up, but it also means that there's going to be a lot of new companies, a lot of new suppliers and a lot of new specialists. And sometimes some of the feedback or some of the questions I used to get asked, certainly at Xbox, was, we're not big enough yet. We understand that. We're not a large enough studio, but when we are, what do we need to do to become a partner of yours? But actually, we work with tiny teams. We work with small teams. The size of the team isn't a barrier. It's still how you present themselves.
And usually, to build the trust, it's always easier when you start small, you know. So totally agree. I mean, it's totally okay to be a small team because it's always better for us to start with small teams, start with small tasks and get this trust, and then grow the team. And what we see is that what's important is really the expertise. And so even if you're a small external studio, don't be shy to tell it, but find what is your core strengths, because that's what developers are going to look for, to be excited, as you said. And that's, don't focus on your size, focus on your strengths, because I don't like when I'm being pitched by an external developer, oh yeah, we can do everything. Yeah. To me, that's really not a good approach. Tell me what you're very, very good at, because that's what I will use then to convince the development studio I'm working with to actually use your help.
Exactly, I +1 to that. Sometimes you have only one shot, make it count, because we won't have more time for you sometimes.
Okay, I'm going to open up to a big question now. I thought go small, now we go big. The industry seems to be shifting and changing. This doesn't feel like a dip like we've had before. It feels like a restructure. So now that, I think maybe part of that reason is that we are now a mature industry. We're not growing like we used to. The growth isn't covering the mistakes we used to make. We have less room. So for you, what does the future look like? What does this has been the last 3-4 years. Where do you think we're shifting to? What is as our landscape from an external development perspective? Where are we going?
So I think that for the market as a whole, we now need, I think that the golden age is a bit behind us. So there are more competition on the market. So we need to be more careful on budgets, on audience, and on the quality of the product that we are delivering. And so that's where we are. This relationship with co-development is going also to change, because I think that we are going to have a smaller development team, and more connection to the external development area to be more precise, more focused, and provide a better quality, with more partners.
I've been given a 1-minute warning, so I'm going to. But I'd love to just get a quick line from yourself on how you see the future.
I mean, I will +1 to what you just Xavier said. And please remember that if you are good in one area, just offer it, and do not offer the services that you are not sure you will provide.
And Toby?
I guess on like the dev side, I think in the future just be much more acceptance of working with external partners, and it'll be baked, hopefully baked more into the plans. Just with what I'm going to assume is going to be tighter timelines and lower budgets, you have to plan way up front. So I think that's kind of going to be the evolution, and things aren't going to be as loose or just thrown over the fence. They'll be just more baked into the plans from the beginning.
Good to see it getting formalized as actually, well, this is now how we make games. Well, I want to say a huge thank you. Thank you so much. It's been great to have you here. I hope you've all had value from it. I know I have. And have a wonderful rest of your event.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. I don't know if you heard, but I said your name right.
Had a running bet. But thank you so much, Sam.
Mesmo em um mercado free-to-play saturado e de alta demanda de investimento em marketing, ainda existem outras alternativas para developers latino-americanos para conseguirem criar produtos mobile inovadores e modelos de negócios diferenciados. Neste painel, nossos convidados vêm apresentar este cenário e algumas alternativas para transpor estas barreiras. Então, neste momento, eu quero convidar ao nosso palco 2 aqui da Gamescom Latam 2025, o Yuji Yamauchi, BizDev Manager da Samsung, e Yaya Torre, Head of Partnerships and Business Development da Abra Games.
Olá, boa tarde.
Oi, boa tarde. Como a gente sabe, e foi apresentado, o mercado de jogo mobile é altamente competitivo. E eu estou aqui com o Yuji, da Samsung, para bater um papo sobre esse cenário. Yuji, quais os principais obstáculos você acha para os desenvolvedores?
Eu acho que são dois, principalmente para os latino-americanos, né?
Isso.
Dois principais desafios, né? O primeiro tem a ver com o investimento. Acho que a maior parte dos desenvolvedores latino-americanos tem essa carência de acesso a financiamento, acesso a dinheiro para conseguir investir no próprio negócio e começar a sair daquele estágio inicial e profissionalizar o processo todo, né? Então, existe muita vontade, existe muita qualidade técnica, mas não necessariamente você tem dinheiro para fomentar que essa ideia saia do papel, né? E, obviamente, num segundo momento, o desafio é como que você escala, como que você transforma esse negócio num negócio escalonável, principalmente em nível global, né? Que você consiga sair da escala brasileira, da escala latino-americana, para conseguir capturar essa receita, capturar essas oportunidades fora do cenário latino-americano, que a gente sabe que é grande, a gente conhece o tamanho deles, mas sabe que tem um potencial enorme na Ásia, nos Estados Unidos e na Europa. Então todo mundo quer poder surfar essa onda, né?
Muito bem. E você sabe dizer alguns exemplos de empresas que conseguiram, sem muito investimento em marketing, alcançar um sucesso?
Eu acho que tudo tem a ver com o momento do ciclo de vida, né? Mas tem um exemplo que eu gosto de dar, principalmente porque a gente tem conversado recentemente, que é o pessoal do Pipa Studios com o Praia Bingo, né? Onde eles têm um foco tão importante e tão cuidadoso com a comunidade, que eles conseguem trazer bons resultados só no ambiente nacional, no ambiente brasileiro, dentro de um nicho específico de uma comunidade que joga bingo. Então, através de um cuidado com a comunidade, como eles tratam os jogadores, as pessoas que estão ali no dia a dia mesmo, através de subscription, através de in-app purchase, eles conseguem manter esse cara ali sem necessidade de investir em grandes campanhas de marketing ou grandes ativações. Eles conseguem ser muito mais cirúrgicos nas ações, eles conseguem atuar quase que num one-on-one ali com o jogador deles para manter e fidelizar, que isso também é um desafio, né? Às vezes você pode gastar, dependendo do modelo de negócios, rios de dinheiro para trazer novos usuários, mas esse cara sai, tem um lifetime value super baixo, e quando vê ele já saiu e você não consegue manter. Então, acho que é um bom exemplo. Gosto principalmente que a gente fala muito que game é comunidade, esses são os caras que souberam como tratar a comunidade deles bem.
Bem interessante e saber explorar, pegar essas oportunidades e explorar como a gente consegue. Como você acha que podem ser explorados também essas particularidades culturais? Acho que você já começou, esse exemplo do bingo também por essa linha da pergunta, mas eu gostaria de explorar um pouquinho mais.
Eu acho que tem dois jeitos de olhar essa questão das particularidades latino-americanas, né? Acho que a primeira é como que a gente exporta, né? Como primeiro a gente transforma essa questão da identidade latino-americana, brasileira ou dos países latino-americanos para um conteúdo relevante, né? Mas como que a gente também consegue traduzir essas especificidades para um mercado que não conhece essas diferenças, né? Então, talvez esteja aí o grande desafio. Porque não é pouco comum você ver pessoas que pegam, publishers, desenvolvedores que pegam temas de folclore, de mitologia nacional, transformam isso no jogo, mas isso não escala, né? É difícil ele sair do âmbito nacional. Então, às vezes, é importante você focar num nicho específico, mas que esse nicho não seja necessariamente de uma direção de arte, de um conteúdo, mas às vezes num nicho de jogabilidade. Porque como a gente está falando de jogos, às vezes o nicho está na forma como ele joga, como ele consome o jogo, muito mais do que na forma como você entrega esse conteúdo do ponto de vista artístico, de narrativa, storytelling e tudo mais.
Muito, muito bom. É interessante porque tem muitos lados e muitas alternativas, né, para você conseguir explorar essa. Você pode ir desde infantil, adulto, tem ali muito aberto. Próxima pergunta, eu queria que você falasse um pouquinho sobre as alternativas ao modelo free-to-play.
Tá. Isso é mais uma questão de opinião, né? Todo mundo que é desenvolvedor sabe os diversos modelos do freemium, do free-to-play, do subscription, in-app e tudo mais. Isso varia muito de jogo para jogo, né? Então depende muito. E eu vejo muito uma coisa de ciclo de vida. Então você está começando baixo ali, você vai depender do modelo de ads, que vai fazer um primeiro fomento ali de você gerar o caixa, para você ter um primeiro resultado, um primeiro beta válido para você levar para um investidor, e depois você criar uma narrativa, e depois você conseguir criar conteúdos para serem comercializados no modelo de in-app. Então, é muito mais você entender qual é o seu jogo, né? O que você quer entregar, por quanto tempo, qual a sua comunidade e como você vai financiar esse projeto, né? Então, por mais que soe muito frio, você ainda tem que entender o jogo como um negócio, né? E esse negócio ele precisa entregar valor. Então, você precisa ter esse business plan muito claro, né? E com a jornada desse jogo como projeto muito clara, para você colocar cada um desses modelos e não ficar só rendido se não for free to play, meu jogo não vai para frente. Às vezes vai. Às vezes dentro do seu business plan você coloca um preço ali one shot, você consegue financiar um primeiro momento, depois você muda essa dinâmica porque você conseguiu alcançar aqueles resultados daquele momento.
E olhando no mercado como de maneira mais geral, que tipo de parcerias e rede de apoio existem disponíveis para ajudar o desenvolvedor a conseguir escalonar?
Eu acho que você melhor do que eu sabe, entende esse caminho, e a gente está num momento muito bom, né? Para vocês que começaram há 10 anos, 20 anos, né? Hoje a gente tem muitas alternativas de apoio, e esse apoio ele pode vir de diversas formas, né? Ele pode vir através de fomento governamental, através dos diversos projetos de fomento que você tem na esfera federal, na esfera municipal, na esfera estadual, ou até mesmo através das associações como a Abra Games, né? E aproveitar a Abra Games não como uma associação só que comunica, mas que integra mesmo as empresas, e eu sinto que entre vocês existe uma preocupação de troca de informação e de conhecimento e de perrengue, né? Isso que é bastante legal, assim, onde entende-se que estão todos no mesmo barco e que essa competição ela quase não existe, porque ainda existe mar para todo mundo pescar, né? Então isso é muito saudável, se fazer valer dessas associações, se fazer valer desses dinheiros que estão aí de fomento, se fazer valer das plataformas de distribuição. Isso é muito importante, e com essa, vamos dizer assim, chacoalhada no mercado que está tendo de Google Play, de App Store, outras lojas de aplicativos estão surgindo, como a própria Galaxy Store lá da Samsung, ou até mesmo a App que vem trazendo, ou até outros modelos de loja com jogos mais casuais. Existe uma série de oportunidades que você pode, entendendo o momento que está o seu negócio, e buscar essas parcerias. E a palavra é essa, é o mais importante de tudo, né? Quem vai ser o seu parceiro para te ajudar nessa jornada, para você conseguir fomentar o seu negócio, dependendo do estágio que ele está.
Realmente a gente vê bastante essa troca entre os desenvolvedores, principalmente aqui no Brasil, na associação, e um ajudando o outro, né, vendo oportunidades. E ampliando um pouquinho mais, considerando a América Latina, como que você vê que essa colaboração entre os desenvolvedores da América Latina pode ser benéfica para expor para o mercado global o que a gente tem de bom?
Eu acho que isso já ficou muito presente ali na GDC e eu acho que aqui na Gamescom também está bastante presente. Essas coisas dos países tomarem a frente e formarem as suas associações para promover a qualidade técnica, né, a qualidade do desenvolvimento dos jogos que são feitos em cada país, né? Então você tem o Uruguai se mexendo, você tem eu ia falar a Espanha, mas não está aqui na América Latina, né? A Argentina também se mexe nesse sentido, o Chile também é bastante forte, o Brasil aqui, como a gente está falando já nesse painel via Abra Games. Então, estar associado a essa... E eu não estou fazendo nenhuma apologia, não é uma defesa específica, mas é interessante como vocês têm essa força de levar, através dos contatos, levar os pequenos juntos de baseada para atrair investimentos, atrair interesse, atrair, ou até mesmo quebrar preconceitos com relação à qualidade técnica do que está sendo entregue, né, através dos desenvolvedores nacionais e latino-americanos. E tem muita coisa boa.
Tem muita
coisa boa. Eu, na agenda da Gamescom agora, um pessoal me procurou para fazer uma reunião e logo na sequência eu baixei o jogo dos caras. Falei, meu, isso é muito bom do ponto de vista de gráfico, de jogabilidade, de emotion. Então, assim, não perde nada para o que está sendo produzido ao redor do mundo.
E como parcerias com plataformas aí, falando um pouquinho da Galaxy Store, por exemplo, podem impactar o desenvolvimento e a distribuição dos jogos mobile?
Como eu falei, né, essa questão da quebra dos monopólios, como tem acontecido, tem dado essa chacoalhada no mercado e outras empresas estão buscando esse lugar ao sol, né? E a gente sabe que o gamer está atrás do conteúdo. Então, para as plataformas é importante ter os jogos dentro delas. Então eu vejo que é um momento de tanto para os desenvolvedores para quanto os donos de plataformas construir uma relação onde os dois ganham, né? A presença do jogo vai trazer mais valor para a plataforma, assim como as plataformas, através com esse objetivo de crescer, tem ferramentas de marketing, de comunicação, de impulsionamento que vão ajudar o desenvolvedor do ponto de vista de visibilidade, do ponto de vista de marketing, do ponto de vista de comunicação. Tá? Então, hoje a Galaxy Store tem muito esse espírito, vamos dizer assim, de querer ter o jogador, o desenvolvedor e os jogos para dentro da plataforma, mas no sentido que a gente cresça junto. Muito diferente do modelo monopolista, onde você é obrigado a pôr na loja e você se vira depois disso, gastando seu dinheiro de marketing, a sua verba de marketing, para ter novos usuários. O que a gente faz é trazer o jogo para dentro, trazer o publisher para dentro e tentar traçar um plano de resultados para ele. E isso pode ser no âmbito nacional, pode ser no âmbito latino-americano ou até mesmo global, né? Porque por mais que a gente seja um escritório latino-americano, a gente tem contato com os escritórios ao redor do mundo e pode ser que algum jogo, dentro daquilo que a gente falou dos nichos, tenha um fit melhor com uma cultura com que a gente não tenha tanta proximidade aqui, mas que seja uma oportunidade lá, para através de campanhas de marketing, conseguir bons resultados para o publisher latino-americano e em outras regiões.
É muito interessante, eu acho que isso daí também já... aquele papo que a gente estava tendo antes sobre a colaboração nos eventos, né? A gente está num evento grande aqui, que eu acho que traz bastante oportunidade de crescimento.
Sim.
E você tem alguma dica? A gente não está falando de uma coisa mágica, alguma coisa assim, mas para que os desenvolvedores consigam explorar mais essas plataformas?
Eu acho que é buscar as plataformas e ir atrás delas, né? Buscar essas oportunidades, buscar esse momento que as plataformas estão com, vamos dizer, dinheiro mesmo e com vontade de crescer, porque vocês vão surfar uma onda que mais para frente dependendo do tamanho que ela estiver, se perde essa força, né? Mas eu acho que o mais importante é a questão do relacionamento, né? Eu acho que essa é a dica. Onde você aprende, onde um errou, onde o outro acertou, onde você pode fazer a coisa ser boa para todo mundo. Mas parceria é a palavra, assim, né? Por mais que eu seja gerente de parcerias nesse sentido, não precisa necessariamente ser com o Samsung, mas que você possa ser capaz de encontrar o parceiro ideal para o seu negócio, para o momento do seu negócio, para que ele te impulsione para frente. Afinal de contas, cada desenvolvedor aqui às vezes tem um escopo, né? E às vezes esse escopo ele pode ser fim a fim, mas às vezes ele pode ser limitado. Ele vai entregar o jogo para que uma outra publisher publique, ou para que ele entrega só para uma marca divulgar aquele jogo para alguma ação de marketing específica. Isso varia muito, mas isso significa ainda que ele precisa achar o parceiro certo que vai pegar na mão dele e vai ajudá-lo a atingir os resultados que ele está buscando.
É bem interessante isso e me faz pensar também um outro lado que talvez possa ajudar os desenvolvedores, né? Talvez você não saiba falar das outras lojas aí, mas você pode falar da Galaxy Store. O que vocês estão procurando? Pensando em os desenvolvedores estão aí, o que eles deveriam levar para vocês, ou o que seria do interesse de vocês para começar uma parceria?
Acho que o primeiro, a palavra é interesse, né? Eu sempre brinco, sempre que eu recebo um novo parceiro que esteja interessado em colocar o jogo na Galaxy Store, eu já agradeço de antemão, porque é legal saber que mais do que um interesse, que existe um interesse e uma crença de que a gente pode ajudar nesse desenvolvimento, né, de resultados e de negócios. É trazer algo é trazer um jogo que tenha essa possibilidade de crescer, né? Se você for falar num âmbito muito grande, muito macro, muito global, obviamente que ter os maiores jogos fazem diferença e isso vai ajudar a nossa plataforma a ter mais valor. Mas hoje, estando no latino-americano, a gente poder fomentar o mercado, para mim, é mais interessante. Então, ajudar os desenvolvedores locais a atingir os resultados deles vai me ajudar a atingir os meus resultados e as coisas vão se retroalimentar. Então, à medida que quem for nos procurar, a gente de alguma forma vai tentar ajudar.
Eu acredito que o nosso tempo esteja quase chegando ao fim, mas eu gostaria de dar a última oportunidade de algum recado que você queira passar.
Desde que eu entrei nessa parte de desenvolvimento, né, que eu tenho tido mais contato com o pessoal os desenvolvedores, a única coisa que vem na minha mente é que ainda é sobre gente. A gente fala muito sobre inteligência artificial, sobre tecnologia e tudo mais, mas ainda é sobre pessoas. Então a capacidade que a gente tem de se conectar, entender as dificuldades, as dores de cada um dos desenvolvedores, né? Quem está desenvolvendo são pessoas, a gente é capaz de fazer projetos e trazer resultados de forma bastante autêntica. Isso que é o mais legal do mercado.
Muito bom, muito bom. Legal. Muito obrigada por esse papo. Eu queria também agradecer pela presença de vocês e colocar nós dois à disposição para quem quiser conversar mais a respeito, tirar dúvidas, explorar algumas oportunidades. A gente estará ali por mais um tempo. E é isso.
Muito obrigado pela oportunidade. Obrigado. Qualquer coisa, Samsung Galaxy Store. Pode me achar lá na plataforma da Gamescom. Estou lá para conversar com quem estiver disponível. Obrigado,
legal,
viu?
Obrigada.
E chegou a hora do nosso Brasil Direct 2025. Se você não sabe o que é o Brasil Direct, ele é o pitch organizado pelas associações regionais de empresas desenvolvedoras de games. Para essa edição, nós tivemos jogos representando 16 regionais estaduais. Os jogos de alta qualidade são uma mostra do que vem sendo produzido em todo o nosso território nacional. E para trazer tudo isso, para a gente acompanhar e assistir agora na prática, o pessoal defendendo o seu jogo para um time de especialistas que vai escolher e premiar somente os melhores. Convido então para formar o corpo de jurados Astrid Gooding, COO da Elsewhere Not For Profit, Alessandro Biolo, vice-presidente latam, da Exola, e Thierry Boujar, cofundador da Spiel Fabric. E para moderar todo esse pitch, a Flávia Gazi, da AC Jogos SP. Todos apostos? Deixa com você, Flávia.
Olá, gente, tudo bom? Boa tarde. Os nossos jurados estão ganhando foninho para poder escutar perfeitamente. Eu queria agradecer bastante a Gamescom por esse espaço, para a gente estar aqui, poder fazer o Brasil Direct no palco. Como a Ana XD falou, foram 16 estados, talvez ano que vem sejam mais ainda. Eu estou bem animada porque todos os jogos são incríveis. E a gente vai conhecer quem venceu hoje mesmo, mas no Big Awards, não necessariamente neste palco. Todo mundo já está com foninho? Falta um foninho? Astrid, já está com foninho? Não, tá. Sem foninho. Também, enquanto isso, queria agradecer nossos jurados que estão aqui, vão escutar o pitch de vocês. Eu acho que é sempre gostoso trocar. E eu queria... Eles estão com o microfone ali embaixo, tá? Eles vão ficar aqui, porque daí vocês podem fazer o pitch olhando para os jurados. Vocês não precisam ficar... Então, eles estão sentadinhos aqui. O microfone de vocês está funcionando?
Olá, olá.
Sim, perfeito. Conta pra gente o que é que vocês esperam quando vocês estão conhecendo um jogo novo, o que é que chama a atenção de vocês? Uma leve troca de microfones. Quer tentar agora? Não, eu só quero conversar com eles. Perfeito. Muito obrigada. A gente vai, então, dar um alô para os nossos jurados.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, okay. So, I mean, I can start if you want to say a few words. Well, I think I'm looking for different things. I mean, of course, what sort of game is it, how interesting it could be, but I'm more on the business side. I'm more interested in, obviously, the scalability of a game, the monetization models, and how appealing is it to audience. So, many different things, yeah. What are you looking for in a pitch?
I don't hear at all.
Yeah,
Posso contar altos segredos? Ah, não posso. Eu já ia falar, posso contar altos segredos? Mas vocês estão conseguindo escutar nosso jurado? Não? Tá. Ele estava comentando sobre como ele vem do mundo de negócios. Então, quando ele vai olhar um jogo, ele está olhando também esse potencial do jogo, de aonde ele pode vender, como ele pode ser vendido. E é isso que geralmente chama a atenção dele. Eu quero continuar a pergunta para os meus outros jurados e qualquer coisa eu vou explicando para vocês, gente, não tem problema. Você quer falar, Astrid?
Of course I can go next.
Okay.
So I think for me most important or most interesting is like vision and purpose. Like why are you building that game? Is there any purpose behind, you know, like the actual game? If not, that is not a problem. But if there's one, I'm so happy about that. And the other thing, and I know that doesn't come from a business standpoint, but we have two business people here. I love to know the story behind your team. I really want to know you as a person. I want to know if I can trust you. Like trusting you that you will actually deliver like the game, but also, you know, I don't know, a good moral, a good workplace, because that is important to me. I do like teams that are actually nice to their people. Yeah.
Perfeito.
True, right?
Está rolando uma troca. Eu entendi, vocês entenderam? Ainda não? Mais ou menos, viu, técnica? Então eu vou traduzir para vocês. A Astrid também vem do mundo de negócios, mas o que interessa para ela é quem é esse time? Que história eles estão contando e como? Como as pessoas desse time falam umas com as outras, como elas se tratam, como é a cultura do local, por que esse jogo foi escolhido. Então ela tem um interesse de entender por que o time foi criado, por que a escolha desse jogo e como eles trabalham juntos. É claro que, gente, não precisa ter nada do PID agora, porque eu estou fazendo essas perguntas agora, tá? É só para vocês saberem mais de outras pessoas e por que elas se interessam em videogame. Eu vou tentar trazer a última pessoa, qualquer coisa eu traduzo também. Mas conta pra gente, o que chama a tua atenção quando você vai ver um jogo pela primeira vez?
Okay, perfect. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Perfect.
Agora arrumou.
Okay. So, I think that something that really calls my attention, and whenever I'm seeing pitches and so forth, is I always say a game is a game. So I like more than narrative, art, and all those components, which are important, I'm not saying that they are not, is the gameplay, the mechanics, how the game would behave when I play it. That's one. And then with the business side of my mind is whether this would be a product that people would actually buy and play, because we are competing with other platforms, other medias. So what would make this game / product compete in the market? How would this compete with the $10, $20, $30 that people are paying for that game? What would make it valuable in my time? So that's kind of like the two things that I see. Like innovation in mechanics, and whether this is a product that people would actually purchase.
I want to add something so badly, because I agree 1,000%. And I think what is also so important is how can the game grow over time? Can it grow in reach? Can it grow in profitability? Can it grow like in community? But can the game actually grow? Is it like a one-time purchase? I play like one time for like 5 hours, or is it player retention? I think that is right, the player retention. And that I feel is more and more important, that you don't only like look for new players, but keep your existing players.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and well, at Exola we work a lot with mobile titles, and sometimes mobile titles, they are not the prettiest out there, some of them more into the casual gaming, but they do retain people, and people actually pay for it. So that's something that we also like take into consideration when seeing all different games.
Eu esperando voltar meu micro. Alô? Oi. Agora deu pra ouvir, né, gente? Tecnologia. Eu achei que foi muito interessante. Vocês veem que tem visões bem diferentes. E é isso que a gente procura, né? Quando a gente compõe um júri, pessoas diferentes com visões diferentes. Então, sem mais delongas, lembrando que vocês não vão descobrir quem venceu agora. É hoje ainda. Então, ansiedade mais menos. Eu queria chamar o Eduardo Saffer aqui para o palco, da Canvas Inc., para apresentar o jogo Canvas Inferno. Vem para cá. Ele vai colocar o seu microfone. Ele fez a coisa certa, né? Que é tirar as coisas. Eu não tirei. Estou aqui toda com um monte de coisa. Depois que ele terminar a apresentação, então depois que todo mundo terminar a apresentação, os nossos jurados têm o direito de falar uma palavrinha ou duas, sem revelar demais as suas preferências. E daí ele tem 5 minutos para apresentar o jogo. Por favor, fica à vontade que o palco é seu. Estamos buscando o seu passador de slides. Eu acho que o jogo está errado.
Agora é meu.
O jogo chama Canvas Inferno. Se vocês quiserem, a gente troca a ordem das pessoas aqui. Estamos aguardando. Enquanto isso, você pode dar oi para as pessoas.
Oi.
Como você tá? Tá bem? Tá nervoso?
Não, tô tranquilo.
Tá tranquilo? Já apresentou esse pitch milhões de vezes?
Algumas vezes, algumas vezes.
Enquanto a gente tá aqui, vamos lá. Conta pra mim de que está... Ah, bom. Precisa do passador ainda. Sim? Sim?
A não ser que eu faça o sinal e alguém pode
Você
passar.
faz o sinal?
Ah, tá. Tranquilo.
Já vai vir?
Aham.
Perfeito. Então conta de que estado é.
A gente é do Rio Grande do Sul. É uma honra estar aqui representando a associação lá da Jogos RS, né? Acontece já acho que uns 4 anos a edição, né?
Sim.
E cada vez ganhando mais destaque. É bom a gente poder, né, tá aqui no espaço B2C, como a Gamescom foi evoluindo assim, ao longo dos anos, né? E ter essa oportunidade aí de mostrar um pouco da nata da nossa indústria, sim, mas igual, né? A gente acha que todo mundo aqui é ganhador nessa questão de poder mostrar qualidade para o mundo, né?
Não, eu também acho que tipo, todo mundo realmente já é. Foi muito difícil já trazer dos semifinalistas para os finalistas. Não foi um trabalho fácil. Agora, então, eu acho que vai ser mais impossível ainda bem que não sou eu. Essa é a minha felicidade, eu só venho apresentar. Não sou obrigada a escolher nada. E há quanto tempo a Canvas Inc. existe? Que tipo de jogos vocês costumam fazer?
Então, a gente está uns 10 anos aí já fazendo jogos de todos os gêneros, assim, muito mais mobile. A gente trabalha com parceiros em co-desenvolvimento, né? E quando a gente tem um tempo, a gente vai usando o nosso, vamos dizer assim, o self-funding, né? Quando a gente consegue captar recursos para fazer os jogos próprios, como esse aqui, que eu vou mostrar agora.
Perfeito, 5 minutos.
Uhum. Então, eu vou fazer em inglês. Então, so, hello everyone. So, my name is Eduardo. I'm the founder. Estou me ouvindo. Sorry. So, hello, my name is Eduardo. I'm the founder of Canvas Inc. Games, and we're a studio from the southern state of Brazil. And this is our title, Canvas Inferno. So, many artists across the centuries try to emulate hell as a painting, the craziest ways. So we want to emulate as well with a game that is a roguelike landscape building, where you create your own Renaissance hell. So we are mixing some genres such as the gameplay from Dorf Romantic, the structure roguelike from Balatro, and a little bit of narrative from Hades. So if you haven't heard about Dorf Romantic, it's like a single-player version of a board game called Carcassonne that sold millions of copies in the last decades. So let's see a video about our game. So, the gameplay is like the tiles and try to fit them, and then we create beautiful landscapes. Eventually you get so-called effects. Works like Joker from the latter and try to synergize them. This unlocks also some skill points and roguelike. This is a slide map already that's already present on Steam. Right on the take a look at it. So, about the gameplay itself, we start with this pool of tiles that can be some type of terrains or a mix of them. And then you try to make groups that award you points, and if you reach your target points, you win. Eventually, you also level up, and then you unlock some pacts. These pacts have some synergize with the terrains, and you can try to make like combos which will scale your score. When you run out of tiles and you lose, you unlock very nice things such as special tiles, new pacts, and also the demons that play a crucial role in the narrative. They are the avatar scenes and appear in some events where they ask you how, let's say, the glutton should be punished. There's no right answer on that, but they are classified between punishment, repentance or hedonism. There's no such thing, let's party. And as you also choose these answers, you unlock some points in a skill tree. And as long as you are consistent with your ethics, you are be evolving in one path. So also, every time you play, as we see in Hades, you evolve in the narrative with one of these demons. So there's like multiple and hundreds of nodes of dialogues and multiple endings. This is one of the replayability content. We also want to add like ways of sharing to community your creations in a full creative mode, and also community features where you can share your seeds and work in Steam workshops. So just summarizing the selling points of the game, there's a lot of hell games, but none as a Renaissance one. There are these ethical dilemmas that you face that really affects the way you play. You can replay the game multiple times. And these popular board game mechanics that are not a deck building is a fresh take on making combos and scaling score. So right now we have a prototype. We have more than 30 minutes in our demo that we've been sharing to publishers. We want to launch the game next year, and we're asking for that 180K plus publishing and marketing and pub porting services. So we are 6 people. We want to make the game in 10 months. We aim to have 3 hours plus industrial replayability. And the game is made on Unity. So we're a studio in the southern states of Brazil. We're 7 people. We're making games for the past 10 years. And well, nowadays we work as a co-dev with some studios. And we try to think ourselves like friends. We make games that are easy to market and that has like some value beyond entertainment. So I thank you all. And I invite you to wishlist our game.
Parabéns. Parabéns pela apresentação. Obrigada pelo seu pitch. Se você quiser escutar o que os nossos jurados vão falar, alguém quer dar uma palavrinha? O que o pessoal achou do jogo aí embaixo?
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes, it's all good. Okay. Well, first, thanks very much. We saw each other before this afternoon, so it's great to see you again. And yeah, I think it's a very nice pitch. It's very well done, very well presented. And the story is I think it's very interesting, and the idea to go from this original IP. I mean, of course, it's old but very, very interesting. I think that's a very good idea. What I would have liked to look at in terms, again, on business is a little bit more about the target group, because there was no clear target group, and I think for this kind of game, I think it would be good to know, because I mean, I understand that anybody can play it, but that's not really what we should do, I think. And I mean, some people could have the reference to Bosch, but other people could not have. It doesn't matter, I think. So I think that could be interesting. And yeah, maybe more on the sales, because you put some example of references, which I think is interesting. But I think to have your vision about what you think it could sell, and what is your ideas about that, I think it would have been good to know a bit more about that.
A gente... Alô. A gente não marcou tempo de resposta, tá? Apenas tempo de pitch, mas eu acho importante você saber que...
Thank you.
Isso é importante para você. Porque senão a gente vai ficar aqui para sempre, gente.
Yeah.
E isso, a
Perfect.
Gamescom não
Well,
permite.
I do have a comment. Well, Eduardo, the pitch got better. I saw Eduardo's speech before GDC. I was doing some presentations with him, and pretty good. Like, you nailed it. Like he said, like, it's pretty nice how it was presented. Now, I would also have the same question. I don't really see the target audience, and that's something that, like I was sharing, who is going to pay $15 for 3 hours of gameplay? Because 3 hours, I think that it's also a very small time. So that would be like because it's a premium title, and I see that being 3 hours at $15, I'm not sure if that could be like the right price.
I have nothing to add here. Because
She has nothing to add on that.
nothing to add because you took all my points away.
Perfeito. Perfeito, muito obrigada. Obrigada pelo seu pitch. Muito boa sorte. A gente fica sabendo daqui a pouco. Não precisa ficar super nervoso. Obrigada por vir apresentar seu jogo. Eu queria já avisar para o pessoal dos slides que o nosso próximo jogo é o Eclipse Shine of Dawn. Muito obrigada para você, Edu. Então eu queria chamar o palco o Vitor Marçal, da empresa Dead Pixel, para falar do jogo Eclipse Shine of Dawn. Obrigada, Edu. É Dudu, né? Pelo que eu fiquei sabendo nos bastidores. Pode vir, Vitor.
Na cadeira para você ouvir. Ok?
Pode vir, viu, Vitor? Cadê o Vitor? Eu não quero apresentar muito do jogo, então... Perfeito, perfeito, pessoal da técnica. É exatamente esse o jogo. Quando a gente estiver no próximo, eu vou pedir para a pessoa já ficar mais próxima do palco, para a gente acelerar o processo de troca. Pode ser? Vocês mesmo. O pessoal do vídeo. Eu vou pedir para quando já ficar mais próximo do palco, só para a gente acelerar. Não, quando vocês verem que está no final da apresentação que vem antes da de você. Para a gente deixar só um pouquinho mais rápido a troca de pessoa, tudo bem? Qualquer coisa, o Marcelo tá ali, tá? Daí ele dá uma chamada. Vem pra cá, Vitor, que a gente tá seu microfone. Ainda não tá funcionando?
Not yet.
Agora sim.
Are you listening?
Eu tô ouvindo.
Okay. I can speak English.
Eu acho que você pode fazer seu pitch em inglês, com certeza. Você
Ok.
pode até me responder em
Aqui eu
inglês
posso
agora,
falar
se
em
você
português
quiser.
agora?
Pode,
Ah,
pode.
ok, tudo bem.
Conta pra gente de qual estado
Obrigado.
vem a Dead Pixel.
A Dead Pixel, ela tem...
Qual estado?
A Dead Pixel, ela tem membros de todo o Brasil. Porém, a gente tem um sólido núcleo no Rio Grande do Norte, muitos integrantes. E nós possuímos membros de outras partes do Nordeste, do Rio de Janeiro.
Perfeito. Eu vou deixar você com a apresentação agora.
Certo.
Então você tem 5 minutos.
Ok.
Boa sorte.
Hello, my name is Victor Cavalcante. I'm from Dead Pixel Studios. I'm the executive producer of the team. And here I'm going to present to you for Eclipse Shine of Dawn. That is an RPG hack and slash game focused on the fantasy graphs and also a deep story and narrative. At Dead Pixel Studios, as I said before, we have members from all Brazil. And we are a very diverse team, passionate by developing games, and with titles like Mashik, Bees vs Zombies, and Mashik 2, that were largely well received by the people and the players. So now about Eclipse Shine of Dawn, let's see a trailer of the game. So this was a short teaser of Eclipse Shine of Dawn that shows some of the graphs and puzzles and a boss fight. Eclipse is a fast-paced action RPG, and it has a lot of intense combat, deeply narrative, and also we want to break the mold of the games of this kind, making a game about rescuing a prince, that is Nilo. Its narrative consists in a game where you live in the living world of Absalom that has its own mythology, and also it has past heroes and very strongly developed characters. So what makes Eclipse stand out? It has legendary weapons, dynamic levels, boss fights, other enemies, and another large ways of progression. And in this game, everything is based on its own mythology that can be expanded for other media, like animation, like production of other products, like flushes, and even more. About the visuals and the style of the game, we consist in a 3D isometric viewport of the game, making it very stylish and 2D splash arts that pop-ups in key moments of the presentations of the game. And also the characters have backstories that will be implemented in the game. Also, we want to bring the duality of light and shadows. So all the graphs behind it shows how the darkness of the Dark One is consuming Absalom. That is a living world created by Atria. So these 2 points of balance are created to make this fight even more feeling. One highly important point of us is inclusion and diversity. We have a lot of characters that are for inclusion, and we build it around the people that know what we're talking about. We have a lot of people in our team that make part of these inclusive groups and knows how to implement it in our story in an expressive way. About our target audience, who will play Eclipse? Fans of roguelike and RPG, deep narrative enthusiasts, young people around 16 to 18 years, and we want to make it like a global appeal. We want to make elements of Brazilian culture present in the game, but we want to make it like more pop for it to show around the world. So we want to expand it like a newly narrative with its own mythology, but for everyone that can play the game. So we will make it global. If you enjoyed games like Hades, Hades 2, Dead Cells, and Children of Morta, Eclipse, it's a game for you. So the players that loved this kind of game, loved this kind of narrative, this roguelike, this play after play, and replay factor, I love this kind of game, evolving weapons, unlocking new weapons, and making its own narrative. The development so far of the game, we've already self-invested $6,000 from ourselves to make a fully playable demo, a core gameplay, system functional, 2D and 3D models of the main characters of the game, and to make the legendary weapons, enemies, and zones, and put all the bosses in places. About the development timeline that we want to make. For the next 18 months, our team is going to develop a stage 1, creating new zones, enemies, implementing new features, and completing some part of the story. About the stage 2. Okay. So thank you about the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Muito obrigada. Muito obrigada.
Nada,
imagina, foi bacana de ver.
Tudo bem.
Vamos dar uma escutada nos nossos jurados, o que eles acharam. Infelizmente, a gente não pode fazer uma conversa longa, mas depois do evento
Tudo bem,
pode.
tudo bem.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna start. I would say that I loved your pitch a lot because it really, it ticked a lot of my boxes. First
Sorry,
of all,
can raise the volume a
I
bit?
think that your trailer was very well chosen because you could see like the art, you could see the gameplay, but also you displayed a little bit of the game's music. So I think the trailer was very well chosen because you really like showed off with the trailer the most important parts. I think it is very smart to tell people what you already developed so far, what you already reached, or actually developed and reached so far, and that you give people like an outlook how much money you need and what you want to achieve with that money. Because people giving you money, they want to know what you use the money for.
Yes.
So I think the budget breakdown, that was really, really good. I love that you were giving a timeline because that is, making a commitment to tell your investor or publisher that I'm committed to make it within the time. I will work within the timeline. Let me see, what else did I bring? Oh, of course, I love that you included a diversity and inclusion slide. I would recommend you to put that when you present a team. That it, was in the middle of the presentation, it was like, cool, but doesn't make sense there. You have like a presentation or a slide in the beginning with your team. Try to bring the diversity inclusion together with the team, because there it does belong to. I think you can see and feel and hear that I really liked your pitch.
Yes.
I will let the others talk now.
Thank you.
Well, first, congratulations for the pitch. I think it's like really well crafted, and I love the concept. And I would go to the product side. Yes. So I like the art. I like that you have a deep narrative, as you said. But I'm kind of like an action gamer. That's me. Like I like action. I like. So you mentioned 3 games there that are very important. Child of Morta, Dead Cells, and Hades, which are spectacular. What would make, my question is, what would make a person, you cannot answer, but you can answer later. Yes, my only question would be, what would make someone that doesn't own, that doesn't have these 3 games, purchase your game?
These 2 games.
Yeah, we can
Você super pode conversar com ele depois.
Você pode falar comigo depois. Tá bom.
Okay, just quickly, because we have to I know, finish. A little bit the same question as the last one. I mean, again, I think the pitch is good, but I think I'm interested always to have vision of your sales projection. What is your idea of selling? I think you give references as well, but I think it will be good to understand a little bit what you have in mind. I mean, are you going to sell millions, or I don't know, 100,000? I don't know, but to understand what you have in mind for the sales vision, I think would be nice. Thank you.
Muito obrigada pelo seu pitch. Muito boa sorte. Melhor, mais fácil, né? Muito boa sorte. Eu vou já chamar o próximo.
Sim.
Depois vocês podem conversar com eles mais aprofundadamente. Porque a gente, infelizmente, não tem tempo no palco. Mas eu gostei bastante do seu pitch também. O próximo jogo, para a galera que vai passar, é o Hell Clock. Então, pode... Obrigada.
Obrigado.
Eu queria chamar ao palco o Marcos Venturelli, da Rogue Snail, que já está com o seu radinho, certo? A gente acelerou um pouco esse processo, gente. Olha que beleza.
Oi, Flavinha.
Demorou só um pouco, mas deu certo, né? Deu certo. Você tá bem?
Tudo bem.
Conta pra galera da onde é a Rogue Snail, qual é o estado.
Primeiro, obrigado pelo convite. Muito legal estar aqui com você, com todo mundo. Obrigado. A Rogue é um estúdio que vive na nuvem. A gente é de todo o Brasil. A gente tem uma equipe diversa de pessoas do Brasil inteiro. São Paulo, Brasília, Nordeste, Sul. É isso.
Então, você tem 5 minutos. A gente está ali contando seu tempo, caso você precise.
Ok.
A gente levanta.
Eu vou falar inglês, tá?
Beleza, o palco é seu.
Perfeito. Verdinho? Tá ótimo. Hey there, I'm Mark, and this is Hell Clock. Can we put the video on? Just the trailer? There we go. I'll get out of the way. Awesome. Can we go back to the slides, please? Voltar para os slides. There we go. So Hell Clock is one of those games that you go, why did nobody ever think of this before? So it's the world's first combination of a roguelike, such as Hades, and action RPG like Path of Exile, Diablo, Last Epoch, Grim Dawn. And we also put it in a setting that is very dear for us. It's a dark fantasy world that is deeply rooted in Brazilian culture and history. It tells a story of Canudos, a very dark chapter of our history at the end of the 19th century. And we're telling that story in a way that is also very unique on our own language with original Brazilian, Northeastern Brazilian cast. It's all in Portuguese. It's a really, really special game for all of us because of that. And we think that there's a huge, I don't know why the slides are in Portuguese. Sorry about that. They're supposed to be in English. Bear with me. So we have a really interesting marketing opportunity with this game. So the ARPG genre has never been so big. Path of Exile 2, Diablo 4, Last Epoch, they're bringing in millions of players. So we designed the game that is meant to be a smaller game that is going to appeal to those audiences, but not directly compete with these giants. And I think we succeeded. So these kinds of games, if you're not familiar with like Diablo, Path of Exile, they are seasonal games. They work in seasons that are roughly 3 to 4 months long. And what happens if you are a creator in that space, a content creator in that space, you have gaps, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes even a whole month, where you don't really have content and you need to try and find something to engage your audience, right? Your audience likes these games, but you don't want to play a game that is super engaging because you only have like a week or maybe 2 tops, right? So you need something smaller that appeals to that audience. We designed a game to fit into that specific hole that we found. And I think we did just that. We released a demo last December. It was really well received. It was covered basically by every major ARPG influencer. And we got 65,000 organic wish lists for that. And we are still, like, we're releasing the game in June, this June. And we still have Steam Next Fest to go in. And we still have like a marketing push, like a non-organic marketing push to do. So we are really excited about the future of Hellclock. And what we actually need right now that we're looking for here at Gamescom Latam is partners to help us bring this game to consoles and mobile maybe, right? Because we're almost done with the game. It's released in June on Steam. Wishlist it if you have, if you didn't. And that's all she wrote. Thank you so much.
Usou menos tempo do que os 5 minutos. Eu estou impressionada. Geralmente não é assim que funciona. Vocês querem comentar pouco?
I was the one grabbing the microphone because I was going to stop you like in the middle of the presentation. I love the approach. And I love that marketing strategy because I do understand that because I'm a Souls-like games. And there is this game, this indie game that is called Salt and Sanctuary. I don't know if you heard about it. And that game filled up the gap between the Dark Souls. So people needed to play, streamers need to create some content. So while those periods of no big because I mean, those are AAA games that take years, right, to be developed. So filling that gap with this game, because that was going to be my question when you started. How is this going to compete with Diablo? I mean, so how is it going to compete with that? So, but you made it clear, and I like it that you're thinking about the marketing strategy right off the bat. I really want to speak with you. We have some opportunities at Exola for the game, so it'll be great to have a chat and talk a little bit more. I love it. Congratulations. Nothing to say than the great pitch.
É bom que já sai daqui. É bom que já sai daqui com patrocínio, amigos, dinheiros, iates. Exatamente.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think it was a great pitch as well. I really liked it as well, and I really agree with Alessandro what he said. So I think it's good, and I mean, I don't know this Brazilian culture behind it, but it looks really interesting. So yeah, I think it's very good, and this marketing approach is definitely interesting. But okay, the game is finished, so I think it's good, and to port it in the other platform, I think that's definitely a good idea. So well done. No, she doesn't want to say anything.
Obrigada. Obrigada, Marcos. Pode levar o mic lá para baixo? Pode. Eu gostaria de avisar o pessoal da técnica que o nosso próximo jogo chama Hitmania. Então eu gostaria de chamar aqui no palco Vitor Hugo de Paiva, do Garou Studios, para fazer o seu pitch. Eu prometo tentar não dançar enquanto este pitch acontece. Como um bom carioca, ele está cumprimentando todos os juízes. Ele me cumprimentou de novo, novamente. É só apenas a, sei lá, 6ª vez que a gente se vê hoje. Tudo bem?
Tudo bem. Tá funcionando? Estão me ouvindo?
Então, obviamente, seu estúdio é? Do Rio de Janeiro.
Do Rio de Janeiro. Garoa Studios, estúdio carioca, apesar do nome Garoa, não tem nada a ver com a cidade da Garoa.
O que tá errado,
tem um
tá,
bom
gente?
som e a gente decidiu manter.
Perfeito. 5 minutos.
5 minutinhos. Tem passador ou peço? Não temos trailer? Beleza, não temos trailer, mas o trailer é muito legal, recomendo vocês assistirem. Faria o pitch em português, tá? Em homenagem ao nosso jogo que tem uma forte raiz na língua e na cultura brasileira. Hitmania, ou em inglês Rhythmania, é um jogo de ritmo simples com um único botão, inspirados em franquias de console como Rhythm Heaven, da Nintendo, né? É um joguinho de ritmo casual, sendo feito agora para PC e Xbox, já confirmado. Pretendemos lançar em todas as plataformas. Ele é um jogo premium com updates free que serão lançados após o lançamento. O nosso gênero, ou melhor, subgênero, né? Ele tem poucos títulos, ele é um nicho bem focado. Claro, nossa principal inspiração é, de fato, o Rhythm Heaven, que tem agora seus 5, 6 jogos na franquia. Mas também tem o Bits and Bops, que está em desenvolvimento, teve um Kickstarter de muito sucesso. E o Melatonin, que já foi lançado. E tem também números muito bons de reviews, de vendas. Nós já conversamos com os devs desses 2 jogos, já trocamos figurinha sobre informações, né? E estamos muito bem posicionados nesse âmbito. Como é que a gente sabe desse posicionamento bem feito, né? Porque com menos de 3 meses da página, só com um vídeo de 40 segundos, sem nenhuma demo, nós conseguimos 10 mil wishlists. Nossos top 3 países são o Brasil, Estados Unidos e Japão. Nós temos mais de 1 milhão de views nesse vídeo em TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, tudo orgânico. E fomos já reparados e feito menção por vários grandes youtubers e criadores de conteúdo nacionais. Vou ter aqui alguns exemplos aqui. Parte da nossa estratégia também para capturar a audiência é fazer parceria com vários artistas nacionais. Nós já pegamos essa audiência deles, vários cartunistas, ilustradores, animadores. Temos até que é o Silva João, que é muito famoso aqui no Brasil. E cada minigame tem o seu próprio estilo artístico, para realmente mostrar a variedade e esse caos e essa sinergia da beleza do Brasil. Nós também temos, né, a parte da nossa proposta, um editor de fases oficialmente suportado, porque a gente sabe que a comunidade de ritmo adora fazer suas próprias versões, e se a gente não fizer, a comunidade vai fazer mod da mesma forma. Como exemplo, o Heaven Studio para o Rhythm Heaven e vários mods de Friday Night Funkin', né? E o ritmo é para todo mundo, então quanto mais a gente puder permitir as pessoas trabalharem, melhor. Música é linguagem universal, todo mundo fala sobre isso, mas no nosso posicionamento, linguagem é linguagem universal. Nós já suportamos agora 51 idiomas. Isso aqui não é conversa falsa, eles estão funcionando, nós temos tradutores oficiais fazendo isso, tá? E nós queremos apoiar mais ainda. É fácil porque não temos tanto idioma assim, tanto texto no jogo, a gente tem muita interface mesmo. Mas isso permite que a gente possa exportar a cultura brasileira para o máximo de lugares possível, tá? O nosso roadmap ele é bem simples, nós recebemos um aporte da Rio Filme, que é uma entidade lá do Rio de Janeiro de fomento ao audiovisual. Com esse dinheiro nós fizemos um protótipo e já implementamos o nosso core gameplay. Nós já fizemos o outreach para os artistas, então nós temos aqui 5 minigames já feitos, disponíveis para jogar exclusivamente na Games com Latam, mas nós pretendemos lançar 30 minigames nesse momento. Nossa primeira demo pública disponível, sem tirar que está aqui agora, né? Nesse trimestre ainda vai para a Steam, nossa primeira round de exposição de demo na Steam. Como eu falei, queremos 30 fases, mais os Super Mixes, que é o modo de Mega Mix do Rhythm Heaven, um pupurri, basicamente. O nosso Level Editor e um Launch, né, que eu não vou prometer aqui ainda quando vai ser. Provavelmente lá para 26, primeiro trimestre de 2026. Sobre a Garoa Studios, quem está fazendo esse jogo, né? Somos um estúdio carioca, lá do Rio de Janeiro. Esses são nossos 4 títulos lançados. Todos eles passaram aqui pelo Big Festival, agora Games com Latam. Fomos 2 vezes finalistas de melhor jogo brasileiro e uma vez de melhor áudio. Nós temos algumas passagens por festivais, por eventos, bastante validação com a nossa audiência, com o nosso público. E a gente se esforça para entregar sempre muita qualidade no que a gente se propõe. Fizemos, inclusive, já jogos de ritmo no passado, muitos jogos com música, baseados em música. Então, temos certa confiança nisso. Nosso time fixo é um core de 4 pessoas. Nossa diretora de arte, Carol, nosso diretor de programação, Igor, diretor de som, Pierre, e eu, como produtor, narrativa, Vitor de Paiva, né? E é isso. Muito obrigado. Hitmania ou Rhythmania, dá para jogar no panorama.
Eu adorei que eu não sei se vocês viram, mas eu vi que tinha a língua do P como uma das... Sim, é assim que eu vou jogar. Eu vou jogar na língua do P. Vou PC, pensar, PB, PQ, P foi, P muito, P tô, P bom. Desculpa, galera, a gente estava falando uma língua infantil brasileira. Quais são os comentários de vocês?
Yeah, I'm gonna start. So I would tell you that I play e-bass. So if you come up with like a rhythm game, I'm like all here for it. Like, yes, I want to play that game. I would have loved to see like a little bit more trailer-ish because, you know, it's music. I would love to hear like the music.
I thought the trailer...
No. We're not answering on that. Like, a trailer would make a lot of sense here because it's about music and rhythm. You want to show, like, show off like the music that it is about, and also because, you know, I would like to understand like how that rhythm games works, because as you said before, there is like a couple rhythm games already out there, and I know like different gameplay rhythm games. Some is like you can only move when you hit the rhythm. Others is like you shouldn't hit the rhythm, and so on, right? I would like to understand like how does that game work, because the graphics looks like so nice. What you explained to me looks like, okay, I want to buy that, but I still actually don't understand how the game works. So bring in some trailer. I recommend that.
No, very quickly. I think it's a nice game. I mean, I really like it as well. It just, we've had an experience with one rhythm game that we did in Europe, and people loved it, but not many people bought it. So just to warn you, I mean, I think in music, it's sometimes, you know, people like it, and depends on the music. You know, there are also copyright issues with music, and that was the problem we had. I mean, we tried to bring some loops from electronic music, and it was very, very complicated to do that. I mean, at least in Europe, and then that's why we couldn't do what we wanted, and people love the game, but they didn't really buy it at the end. So just be careful about that, or warned about that. Thanks.
Perfect, and I think that is a great comment. Back in the day, as I was telling you, I'm a former developer, and one of the first games that we did was a rhythm game, and it's like very niche market, and like the gamers are really expecting that everything is in the rhythm and so on and so forth. And we also had that idea of having people like create their own songs, and so I think it's a great approach. Because like I can see that I love the validation, like despite not having the trailer that would have been nice to have, I think that the validation is telling that the people really love it, but you need to be aware of all these things with copyrights and all that stuff. I think the editor makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And something else that I also want to add up, that I want to say congratulations, parabéns para vocês, is that you are developing a rhythm game and you have experience in audio and you've been developing games, because one big mistake that some studios do is that they make a sports game now, then a car game, then a rhythm game, then an action game, then a roguelike. So they jump from genre to genre, and you are sticking to your own genre. So that's very positive, but I would be aware, mindful about the issues that we brought up. Yeah, congrats.
Muito obrigado. Muito obrigado. Foi muito divertido você poder vir aqui. Eu falar a língua do pé com você, foi maravilhoso. Muito obrigado. Nosso próximo é o último jogo. Como vocês podem ver, vai ser difícil dos jurados escolherem. Então a gente vai fazer esse último pitch e daí eu vou roubar eles. Para eles terem um papo e me contarem quem venceu. Eu ficarei sabendo antes, hahaha. E depois vocês descobrem no Big Awards, que vai acontecer hoje. Então é hoje. Nosso último jogo chama Tupi, The Legend of Arari Boy. Quem tá aqui é o Rafael Lontra, da Mito Games. Pode vir, Rafael. Ele tá batendo palma? Com os jurados. Tudo bom? Boa tarde.
Hello, should I answer in English?
Você faz o que você quiser.
Can you hear?
Você faz o que você quiser. Da onde é o estado?
We are from Espírito Santo. We are a startup for 8 years, a game development company, and now we're focusing purely on entertainment games, but we started with educational games, clients games, websites, applications, whatever sold, and we could potentially grow the team and have more experience, so we tackled the entertainment helm because it's a different beast, and so we had to be prepared.
Perfeito. Então eu vou te deixar com seus 5 minutos. A gente está ali, a gente informa qualquer coisa se você precisar. O passador? Passador? A pessoa
Just the clicker?
Ah, tá vindo, tá vindo. Tá vindo.
Ou ficou com...
Ficou com pivô, PC, PE, PESTA, PCOM, PO, PA.
Joga aqui.
PSA,
Valeu.
Obrigada.
Sem problema. Let me just test.
Certo?
Certo.
Boa. 5 minutos.
Okay. I am Rafael Lontra. I represent Mito Games and Tupi, the Legend of Arariboia. It's our game. It's a roguelike RPG, turn-based game with a very nice niche and very proved market, but it blends monster taming and fusion elements. So we also have a branch narrative and tell the story of all the creatures from Brazilian folklore, mythology, and everything. But the most important thing, I think you should see the video to understand a bit how it feels, how it plays. Okay. Just so you all know, this is not the most recent video yet, because we are launching it today at the Direct. We were selected by the Anhembi showcase, so it had to be totally new video, so we couldn't show it here. We had to send it before, so it's restricted. But from today on, you can see a new video. It shows a bit more of the teaser. But yeah, let's go. We don't have a lot of time. So I spoke about monster taming and fusion. So we bring lots of elements from Shin Megami Tensei, Pokemon, and games that already have a good space in the marketplace, in the business. We also have positional turn combat, so it brings a lot from Darkest Dungeons, but with a twist. It's a different 2-2 grid and a center character, which is either the boss or the main character, so this brings a new dynamics to the gameplay, to the mechanics of fighting. And for the skills, of course, you have to have a position, and you can only hit a specific position. This is quite interesting. So it's a roguelike, and the exploration is totally procedural generated. Of course, you have special nodes, as you can see. Each of those specific nodes have its own interactions, so you have to face whatever it brings to you. And we also have a settlement management thing. So you have the village, and when you come back from the run, from the expedition, when you die, you can keep some of the creatures that you tamed, and you can also evolve those constructions. So your next gameplay will be more easy, more interesting, and you have more things to do. Of course, we believe the design of the characters is one of the main differentials of our game. We decided to go for this style and this type of game to really showcase the talent of our art team. And it connects very well with the Brazilian folklore culture. And we're telling many, many stories that came from our indigenous folks and also from the Europeans that came and conquered Brazil and also had their visions on that. So you see many of the creatures are a bit European in the way of they thought. We already had the debut, as I said. We participated in the Monster Taming Direct Festival. It's a very specific niche channel for people who really love this style of game. And it was a mayhem. When we said our game was shown, everybody in the comments, what is this? I never saw, I don't know these guys. This is so beautiful, it's so pretty. So it was a very nice validation. We also had from EJN. We also had a demo previously, so people could play and give the feedback. We have very nice feedbacks. Of course, we can talk about this later and when we have time. It's important to put our marketing position because I mentioned some really, really games that are pillars of their style. And we don't want to compete with any of them. All those games are settled already, and they define the niche. We don't want to compete with them. We bring a few things from them to attract players from this broader audience in our game, which is a bit lighter, but it's also a bigger game. It has long hours of gameplay. It's valued at €19.99 dollars. And we already have an estimate from our previous game. I will show you a bit. Maybe here. I will talk later about the sales. I think it's skipped. We already, in this timeline, we already developed, we are up to now to the demo on Steam in April 2025. We participated in Brasil Gamescom, Brasil Game Show, Gamescom. We had a few validations, and today we are launching the official demo. So we have new information, this is the launch, the official launch of the demo, as you can see there. And it's also the perfect time to find a publisher partner. So it can help us with the, this is the theme. I will skip a bit because it's too quick. As I said, we had some games. So we had a retrospect of selling 50,000
copies of War Dogs and Willy's Wonderland with a partner publisher. Now by ourselves, we expect to sell similar, but with the support of a publisher, we really think we can go a lot higher, maybe 10 or 20 times higher than that. This is our expectation with an experienced team marketing and who has already knowledge of that. We are asking for another 100K because we already invested 100K up to now. We need marketing support, quality assurance, localization, and help with the porting. We have the dev kits, we have the authorization, and we do port our own games, but we have so much to learn. As I said, we started with educational games, and we are now evolving to that. And important, we are not asking for just the money, maybe the money we can find, but this knowledge, this smart money, can bring us to a different place, and we can position ourselves between those amazing games without competing. Thank you so much.
Muito obrigada. Sim, o pitch foi muito bom e é muito louco. Você começa a falar, né? A hora que você vai ver, acabou o tempo. Sim. É realmente assim. E aí, galera, o que vocês acharam? Eu acho que ainda não. Uma troca rápida de microfone.
About now?
Sim.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, congratulations. I know you and the game and so on. So congratulations for the pitch. I love it, and I love the concept. I love seeing the capybara there and making the references to the Brazilian culture. So my question would be, I mean, I am a Latino and I love like expressing our culture and so on and so forth. But how would you sell it? Because I saw that you targeted the U.S., for example. So how would you sell your game to those people that barely know about our culture and that this hook of the Brazilian culture wouldn't make much sense to them? For me, I would love it because I would love to have the capybara converting with a parrot. I don't know, because I like the culture. But how about an American that doesn't even know what a capybara is?
Yeah, thank you. It was very nice. I like it as well. I wanted to know who is Ari Robaya. Because Ari Boya, okay, yeah. I think that would be good to know. And the second thing, I mean, what you say at the end that you want to compete with, you know, bigger game, etc. I was wondering about the budget because it seemed very small to me. You know, $200,000, if I understand. I think you want to compete on you know, more international games. I think this is I think maybe should be more ambitious about the budget and finding like that, finding you know, bigger publisher. But I think that was a little bit at the end something that I thought, okay, it's a bit too low compared to the vision you gave, which I thought was very, very nice. So thanks.
Just 10 seconds. You see what I'm talking about. He's from France, living in Europe. So what does that name mean? So it makes you wonder, you know? If you're Brazilian, obviously, you know, and the culture, but selling it to somebody else.
I think that might be the only thing that I also wanted to add. I think you really need to define your target group. Who is the people that will buy your game? Because we just heard that people outside of Brazil might not buy the game because they're not into the culture. They don't understand like those mythic animals and all that, and they will probably then not buy it because they just don't have access to it. I would still like buy it and play it because I really like it. Like, I'm an art person, and you know, I loved like it was a bit like retro style. Also, I like all animals, and I'm still trying to see actually a capybara here. I think it is a lie. No, people say there is capybaras, but I haven't seen one, so I think it's a lie. Like, I would play that game, right? Because I'm interested in culture. I'm a cultural researcher. But your usual, you know, like, consumer, probably not.
Gente, muito obrigada. Obrigada, Rafael. Peço perdão a todos vocês por ser a pessoa chata, tá? Que fala, não pode responder. Mas é porque a gente não pode dar ser injusto, né? Senão a gente teria que... Exatamente. Para conversar depois. Você pode ir, muito obrigada. Eu queria agradecer a Gamescom, agradecer por esse espaço, agradecer aos nossos jurados, que depois vão seguir o Marcelo pra gente ver, pra vocês poderem debater quem foi que venceu. A gente fica sabendo disso logo menos no Big Awards. Eu queria agradecer todas as associações estaduais, já são 21. Eu espero que ano que vem a gente tenha mais do que 16 estados representados. Foi maravilhoso, foi uma honra estar aqui. Sempre é uma honra estar entre os devs. Muito obrigada. Logo menos a gente descobre o finalista. Até a próxima e tchau, tchau.